After the initial shock and disbelief, Hua Minju, Li Fei, Jiang Rendo, and the Bai family were overjoyed. Since Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could kill a false level 4 demon beast, it meant that their true strength was comparable to a false core cultivator. In this way, their hope of defending ancient origin city would undoubtedly increase greatly. They really did not expect the couple's true strength to be so terrifying. However, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan didn't look all that happy and relieved. This was because at this moment, they saw that the other demon beasts showed no signs of retreating. This was very abnormal. The two leading demon beasts were already dead, but they did not retreat, nor did they show any signs of retreating. What did that mean? Shen Ruyan, who already knew the results of Jiang Chengxuan's deduction, suddenly narrowed her beautiful eyes. She and Jiang Chengxuan quickly exchanged a glance. Without wasting any time to think, the two of them immediately returned to ancient origin city. At the same time, they did not forget to remind Hua Minju and the others to stop fighting and return to the city. Hua Minju and the others were puzzled. Now that the situation was in their favor, shouldn't they follow up the victory with a hot pursuit? Although that was what they thought, they did not take Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's reminder lightly. They believed that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan would not do it for no reason. The six of them retreated as they fought. After a while, they were back in the city. Boom! Not long after they retreated inside the range of the protective array, a terrifying fluctuation suddenly came from the depths of the ancient origin mountain range in the distance. The fluctuation was vast, barging into the divine senses of Jiang Chengxuan and the others with enormous pressure. That is, everyone's expressions changed drastically, especially Hua Minju and the other Violet Palace cultivators. No one knew better than them what level the possessor of the fluctuation had to reach. A level 4 demon beast. That's a true level 4 demon beast. Bai Zixuan suddenly said in horror. The others also reacted very strongly. Even Bai Mingxian, the ancestor of the Bai family, could not help but reveal traces of fear in his eyes. It was no question that a level 4 demon beast had already surpassed what they could resist. Even if there was the falling river Tei array, they didn't feel safe. They had to ask for help immediately. At this moment, Hua Minju immediately took out a long-range communication Jade talisman from her body without any hesitation. After quickly writing down the changes in the battle over here, she immediately sent it to the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrowed. The development of the situation was not much different from the future he had foreseen. If this situation continued, the future he had foreseen would definitely happen. It seemed like it was time for him to make some arrangements. At the thought of this, an array disk appeared in his hand. It was the stars chain array that the system rewarded him with. Seeing Jiang Chengxuan suddenly take out the array disk, everyone looked over. Fellow Taoist Jiang, this is? Hua Minju subconsciously asked. Jiang Chengxuan said seriously. I obtained this array disk by chance. It's called the stars chain array and is a level 4 array disk. As long as it is activated, it can temporarily protect the ancient origin city. Really? Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, everyone revealed a look of disbelief. Immediately, it was replaced by a look of joy. Bai Mingxian said, if that's the case, we should be able to deal with that level 4 demon beast. Fellow Taoist Jiang, do you need us to pay a price? Or rather, what do you want in return? At this moment, Hua Minju said with an unusually serious expression. This was also what Jiang Chengxuan admired about her the most. Clearly, Hua Minju had already realized that if they wanted Jiang Chengxuan to use this array disk, they would have to pay the corresponding price. They couldn't just let Jiang Chengxuan do everything while they enjoyed the fruits of his labor. Or rather, she was unwilling to take advantage of Jiang Chengxuan. Especially after Jiang Chengxuan and his Dao companion displayed their true strength, Hua Minju did not want to become enemies with them or leave a bad impression. That was really not worth it. After all, judging from their potential, it was only a matter of time before Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan broke through to the Golden Core. The three members of the Bai family obviously thought of this too. Bai Mingxian nodded and said, fellow Taoist Hua is right. Fellow Taoist Jiang, tell us what you need. As long as it's something we can do, we won't refuse. Hua Minju and Bai Mingxian's responses satisfied Jiang Chengxuan. It could be seen that both of them were sensible people, Nothing that he did not want to see happened. At that moment, he said in a low voice, "I think you all know the resources required to activate a level 4 array disk. One needs spiritual stones, a large number of spiritual stones. At least 500,000. That will be enough to sustain it for a day or two. It would cost 500,000 spiritual stones to sustain the array disk for a day or two. That meant if they wanted to keep the array disk running, they would have to consume 1,000,000 spiritual stones. If reinforcements didn't arrive in time, the number of spiritual stones needed would be astronomical. However, they were left with no choice. Ancient Origin City they were in did not have any spiritual vein to rely on. Even if there was a high-grade level 4 spiritual vein deep underground, they couldn't use it as of now, and nor did they dare to use it. So, if they wanted to activate and unleash the true power of the array disk, they could only do it through spiritual stones. This was also why war was in essence a war of resources. Be it the activation of the arrays or the activation of Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures, they all required spiritual stones, a large number of spiritual stones. Yang Chengxuan's words put a solemn look on everyone's face. It had to be said that such a number of spiritual stones was huge to even late-stage Violet Palace cultivators like them. Most importantly, they did not know how long this war would last. What if it was going to last for a few months? In that case, even if he took out all the spiritual stones on them, it would probably be far from enough. However, no matter what, buying time was most crucial at this moment. Hua Menju, Bai Mingxian, and the others nodded. "We have no problem. Other than that, do you have any other requests?" "Yes." Yang Chengxuan did not stand on ceremony and immediately nodded. "If I use this array disk to resist a level 4 demon beast, it will definitely be managed to a certain degree. After this demon beast riot ends, one hope you can compensate me for my losses." "That's not a problem." Hua Menju immediately agreed without hesitation. "I will tell Pavilion Master and my Shifu the truth. At that time, they will definitely not make you suffer any losses." "In that case, let's do it." Jiang Chengxuan nodded. As he spoke, he activated the star's chain array in his hand. Because there was no corresponding spiritual vein to rely on, although the star's chain array was a rather extraordinary level 4 array, it could not unleash its full power and could only be used as a defense for the time being. Buzz! At this moment, the entire array disk emitted an extremely dazzling light. In the sky, there seemed to be rays of starlight falling, forming a connection with the array eyes. A powerful power that was completely different from a level 3 array instantly spread and covered the entire ancient origin city. Even the city protecting array, the falling river Tei array, was enveloped by the star's chain array. At the same time, a figure appeared in a certain direction far away from ancient origin city. The figure was not imposing. It was only about 5 to 6 meters tall. This was considered very small among demon beasts that could easily be dozens or hundreds of meters tall. However, when such a figure appeared, all the demon beasts present prostrated on the ground and trembled, including the few high-grade level 3 demon beasts. On Jiang Chengxuan's side, everyone's pupils constricted, especially Hua Menju and Li Fei. A look of disbelief appeared on their faces. Hua Menju said, "It's the Wolf King of Mount Fu. Why did it appear here?" Jiang Chengxuan asked, "Is there anything strange about that?" Hua Menju took a deep breath and said with an ugly expression, "If I remember correctly, the Wolf King of Mount Fu is not a demon king that's supposed to appear in the territory of the Liang, Yun, and Yan nations. It's a level 4 demon king of Mount Fu in the territory of the Zheng nation." When they heard Hua Menju's words, the eyes of Jiang Chengxuan and the others widened in disbelief. Since it was a demon king of the Zheng nation, how could it appear in the Liang nation? This did not make sense at all. It was almost impossible for a demon king to bypass the barrier between the two nations and reach Liang without alerting the gold core cultivators of the Zheng nation. Long ago, the 5 nations had reached an agreement that they wouldn't let the level 4 demon kings in their territory step into the territory of other nations. Otherwise, if all the demon kings swarmed into one nation, that nation would be razed to the ground in no time. So, the appearance of the Wolf King of Mount Fu was very suspicious. This was also the main reason why Hua Menju and Li Fei had such an abnormal reaction the moment they recognized the Demon King. However, at this moment, it was meaningless for them to dwell on this. The most important thing now was to think of a way to defend ancient origin city. Just as this thought flashed through their minds, Jiang Chengxuan and the others saw that the Wolf King's eyes were already looking straight at them. Two laser-like red pillars of light immediately shot out from its eyes. There was a loud bang, causing the entire ancient origin city to shake slightly. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In an instant, the star's chain array suddenly let out brilliant light. Streaks of starlight descended like the Milky Way, emitting beautiful colors. Upon collision, the two red pillars of light from the Wolf King were negated. Interesting. A look of interest appeared on the Wolf King's face. In the depths of its eyes, there was extreme cruelty. Since I'm already here today, I won't go back empty-handed. As soon as it finished speaking, the Wolf King looked at the demon beasts present and said with an unquestionable authority, "Pass down my order. All demon beasts attack ancient origin city with all your might. Without my order, no one is allowed to stop." Yes. The level 3 demon beasts immediately accepted the order. Soon, an even fiercer round of attacks began. Those demon beasts seemed to have gone crazy. Even though there was a level 4 array in front of them that could instantly turn them into bloody mist, they did not care at all and smashed into it. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, violent explosions sounded continuously. All kinds of innate divine powers and spells were thrown out crazily by the demon beasts. However, these attacks were useless against the level 4 star's chain array. On the contrary, after they rushed into the range of the array, they were all minced into a bloody mist. In just a moment, thousands of low-level demon beasts fell, and this number was still increasing. However, Jiang Chengxuan and the others who were in the array did not look relieved at all. It was because the kamikaze attacks would facilitate the consumption of spiritual stones used to run the array. If 500,000 spiritual stones could originally maintain the operation of the array for a day and night, under the kamikaze attack, 500,000 spiritual stones would probably be exhausted in less than half a day, provided that the Wolf King didn't make a move. If the Wolf King went to the battle personally, Jiang Chengxuan and the others didn't dare to imagine. They couldn't let the situation continue to worsen like this. Jiang Chengxuan turned to look at everyone. "Everyone, let's fight back. I'll be in charge of operating this array and do my best to ensure everyone's safety. This way, the consumption of the array itself can be minimized and maintained within a relatively reasonable range." Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, no one had objections. Soon, Jiang Chengxuan walked to the core of the array. With his current attainments in arrays, although he could not set up a level 4 array of such a scale, operating it wouldn't be a problem. Buzz. Soon, the operation of the array began to change from a passive defense to a targeted defense. At the same time, its counterattack against the enemy became even fiercer. Most importantly, with Jiang Chengxuan operating the star's chain array, the array seemed to have become alive. As long as a cultivator outside was in danger, the array would instantly extend and envelope him. The Wolf King narrowed its eyes with a cold glint in them. However, it was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, it watched as countless demon beasts in front of it were reduced to ashes by the star's chain array. Just like that, a day passed quickly. When the sun shone on ancient origin city the next day, a thin, blood-colored cloud had already condensed in the sky above ancient origin city. Wherever the eye could see, there were the corpses of demon beasts everywhere. Their blood had already turned into streams that flowed along the surrounding potholes. On the wall of ancient origin city, there was fatigue written across the faces of all the cultivators. The intensity of the battle in the past day had exceeded any time in the past. Even Hua Minju, Li Fei, Jiang Rendo, and the Bai family had bloodshot eyes. The dharmic power fluctuations emitted from their bodies were slightly unstable. Only Shen Ruyan remained calm and collected, as if she was not much affected by the battle yesterday. The dharmic power fluctuation on her body was as still and vast as the sea. There were no signs of instability or exhaustion. This shocked Hua Minju and the others. They had seen Shen Ruyan killing the false level 4 demon beast, the bladed golden eagle, as well as 3 other level 3 demon beasts. But even so, Shen Ruyan was still in good condition. How deep and vast was her foundation in dharmic power? Just as everyone was thinking about this, the demon beasts that had retreated not long ago suddenly gathered again. In no time, the overwhelming mass of demon beasts appeared outside ancient origin city again. Seeing this, the cultivators had no choice but to perk up and face the enemy. It lasted for a total of 3 days. When the sun on the 4th day rose outside ancient origin city, the Wolf King, who had not attacked at all, suddenly moved. Its figure flashed and landed above the sky of ancient origin city within a breath's time. Then it opened its mouth and spat. A blood-colored saber in the shape of a wolf's head slashed down at the star's chain array in ancient origin city. Boom! For 4 consecutive days, the star's chain array, which had been extremely stable, immediately dimmed greatly after being attacked by the level 4 Dharma treasure. The pillars of light that were connected to the sky also showed signs of collapsing. Yang Chengxuan, who was operating the array, had a drastic change of expression. He could clearly sense that this demon beast's strength was probably not just at the early stage of the golden core. Otherwise, the star's chain array wouldn't have reacted so strongly. Without any time to think, Jiang Chengxuan immediately grabbed a storage ring beside him and threw hundreds of thousands of spiritual stones into the array. Buzz! The star's chain array, which was originally dimming, brightened up after being fueled by the spiritual stones. Seeing this, a trace of mockery flashed across the Wolf King's eyes. Its body flashed as it attacked several different spots of the array, causing the light of the array to tremble. Hua Menju and the others, who had already returned to the array, felt their hearts in their throats. At this moment, they were really afraid that something would happen to the array. If it was broken, it would probably be impossible for them to escape. Fortunately, Jiang Chengxuan, who was in charge of operating the array, was quite capable. Even with the continuous attacks of the Wolf King, the array was still able to hang in there even though it was already on the verge of collapse. Fellow Taoist Hua, when will the golden cores of your sect arrive? At this moment, even the ancestor of the Bai family, who was the most senior and calm of them all, could not remain calm anymore. He turned to look at Hua Menju. When the others heard this, they also turned to look at Hua Menju. Just as Hua Menju was about to answer, a powerful light suddenly flew over from the distant sky on the other side of ancient origin city. Feeling that rare and intimidating pressure, everyone realized that it was a golden core. Beast, how dare you! Before he arrived, an angry shout came from afar. Like thunder, it actually caused the demon beasts who were still attacking the city to fall to the ground and tremble. Seeing this, Hua Menju, Li Fei, Jiang Rendao, and the Bai family could not help but reveal pleasantly surprised expressions. It's a golden core senior. A golden core senior is here. As soon as everyone finished speaking, a huge sword that was 1,000 feet long suddenly flew over from the streak of light. The huge sword emitted a resplendent sword light and slashed at the Wolf King. The Wolf King immediately took out its wolf-headed saber. When the 2 level 4 Dharma treasures collided in midair, a mushroom cloud rose and waves of powerful aftershock wreaked havoc, tearing apart the bodies of hundreds of demon beasts closest to them. This terrifying scene instantly silenced the entire battlefield. It was also at this moment that Jiang Chengxuan and the others finally saw that the golden core cultivator who appeared in front of them was wearing a blue robe. From the looks of it, he was probably in his 50s. Hua Menju and Li Fei recognized that the person who came was not the supreme elder of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, nor was he the supreme elder of the Heavenly Yue sect. Instead, he was the ancestor of the Pang family who had broken through to the Golden Core a few years ago. Pang Beiyan. He was the least expected person to come to their aid. Hua Menju and the others were slightly disappointed. After all, it had not been long since Pang Beiyan broke through to the Golden Core. His strength and cultivation were definitely not comparable to those old Golden Core seniors. However, no matter what, he was still a genuine Golden Core cultivator. If he were to be in charge of operating the star's chain array, the Wolf King could forget about breaching ancient origin city. At this moment, Pang Beiyan did not get too entangled with the Wolf King. Just as Hua Menju and the others thought. As a newly advanced Golden Core cultivator, Pang Beiyan's strength and foundation were definitely inferior to the Wolf King. If the two sides really started a life and death battle, Pang Beiyan would not be a match for the Wolf King. So, the best way was for him to take over the star's chain array and deal with the Wolf King in a roundabout manner. Pang Beiyan's figure flashed and arrived at the periphery of the star's chain array. He swept a glance across everyone inside the array with a sharp gaze. Finally, he shifted his gaze to Jiang Chengxuan, who was in charge of the array, and said, "I'm Pang Beiyan from the Pang family. I came here in response to your request for help. Please open the array and let me in." Hearing his words, Hua Menju and the others did not feel anything wrong. However, Jiang Chengxuan, who had already foreseen the future, and Shen Ruyan, who had learned about it from Jiang Chengxuan, narrowed their eyes. However, the couple did not say anything. After exchanging a glance with each other, Jiang Chengxuan opened a gap. Pang Beiyan immediately entered ancient origin city through the gap. "Greetings, immortal Pang." Everyone immediately bowed. "Good." Pang Beiyan nodded slightly. Then his gaze landed on Jiang Chengxuan. He said, "The Wolf King's cultivation has already reached the 4th level of the Golden Core. I might as well tell you that with my cultivation, I'm afraid I'm not a match for the Wolf King." These words made everyone's heart skip a beat. Pang Beiyan continued, "However, fortunately, you have a level 4 array here. With this, not to mention the Wolf King, even if 2 more opponents of the same realm came, I'm confident that I can defend ancient origin city. The only prerequisite is that, from now on, I have to be in charge of operating this array. What do you think?" While speaking, Pang Beiyan's gaze never left Jiang Chengxuan. Subconsciously, Hua Menju and the others also turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan. In the end, this stars chain array belonged to Jiang Chengxuan. If Pang Beiyan really wanted to take over this array, it was only natural for him to get Jiang Chengxuan's approval. However, a level 4 array was so precious. Was Jiang Chengxuan willing to hand it over? One had to know that, although the Pang family had been promoted to a Golden Core family, they did not have a level 4 array disc yet. If Pang Beiyan really took over this array, would he be willing to return it to Jiang Chengxuan after the Demon Beast riot ended? The scene suddenly fell silent. As time passed, a layer of sweat appeared on the foreheads of Hua Menju and the others. They were really afraid that Jiang Chengxuan would do something irrational at this moment. On the other hand, Pang Beiyan did not say anything. He just looked straight at Jiang Chengxuan. After a while, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly smiled. He looked at Pang Beiyan and nodded. "It's not a problem to hand this array to Senior Pang. However, I have a question to ask Senior Pang first." Pang Beiyan nodded slightly and said, "What is it? Ask away." Jiang Chengxuan did not stand on ceremony and said, "Senior Pang, before you came, did you receive anything from the Jade Water Sword Pavilion or the Heavenly Yue sect?" In other words, he was asking if the Jade Water Sword Pavilion or the Heavenly Yue sect had given him any treasures like a level 4 array disc that could be used to fight level 4 demon beasts. After all, given that Pang Beiyan was a newly advanced Golden Core cultivator, without the corresponding treasures, it would probably be difficult for him to resist the demon beast riot led by a level 4 demon beast alone. 2. Moreover, if he didn't receive anything, why would Pang Beiyan take the risk? At his level of cultivation, unless a nascent soul-perfected lord personally issued an order, he could find many excuses to refuse to come. At this moment, when Pang Beiyan heard Jiang Chengxuan's words, his eyes narrowed into dangerous slits. But he quickly regained his composure. This frightened Hua Menju and the others. Jiang Chengxuan actually dared to speak like that to a dignified Golden Core senior. He was simply. Before they could think further, they heard Pang Beiyan's voice. "So what if there is? So what if there is? Does this have anything to do with you?" It was obvious that Pang Beiyan was very dissatisfied with Jiang Chengxuan's answer. The reason why he didn't flare up was probably because Jiang Chengxuan was still in control of the star's chain array. After all, the power of the level 4 array was obvious to all. Although he was a Golden Core, he was currently in the array. If the two sides really fell out with each other, he would probably not have an easy time. Senior Pang." Just as the atmosphere was tense, Hua Menju braced herself and planned to speak up for Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan suddenly smiled and nodded at Pang Beiyan. "Senior Pang is right. One was a little presumptuous just now. One hopes Senior Pang won't take it to heart. Here, this is the controller of the array. I'll leave it to you, Senior Pang." As he spoke, Jiang Chengxuan handed a token-like thing to Pang Beiyan. Seeing this, everyone present was stunned. They did not expect Jiang Chengxuan to really hand over the right to operate the array so easily. There was even a trace of surprise flashing across Pang Beiyan's eyes, but he quickly regained his composure and nodded slightly. Good. As soon as he finished speaking, he reached out and took the controller from Jiang Chengxuan. Boom! At the same time, the Wolf King outside the array had begun to attack ancient Origin City again. Rays of red light shot out from its eyes and landed on the star's chain array, immediately causing ripples. This put a deep frown on Hua Menju and the others' faces. Their gazes quickly turned to Pang Beiyan. Pang Beiyan narrowed his eyes. He looked coldly at the Wolf King outside the array and suddenly said to everyone, "I need to familiarize myself with this array for a while. During this period, I hope you can hold the fort. After I familiarize myself with this array, the ancient Origin City will be impregnable." The expressions of Hua Menju and the others changed drastically. No one expected Pang Beiyan to say such words after taking over the control of the array. Let them, Violet Palace cultivators, fight back a level 4 Demon King. What kind of joke was this? Even if he had just taken over the array and was not familiar with it, with his strength as a golden core, it should not be a problem for him to resist the Wolf King. Why did he let them face an enemy that they obviously couldn't face? Unless what Pang Beiyan wanted to do next was not to familiarize himself with the array, but to take the opportunity to refine the array disk. Only this could explain why Pang Beiyan needed some time. Upon realizing this possibility, the expressions of Hua Menju and the others present turned extremely ugly. This was blatant plunder. He wanted to plunder Jiang Chengxuan's level 4 array disk. Wasn't he afraid that the Jade Water Sword Pavilion and the Heavenly Yue sect would hold him accountable for doing such a thing at this critical juncture? At the thought of this, Hua Menju immediately spoke. "Senior Pang, I'm afraid it's difficult for us to agree to that. After all, what we are facing is a level 4 Demon King. We can't fight it head-on. I hope you can reconsider this matter." "You can't do it." Pang Beiyan's expression suddenly became a little strange. His eyes were covered with a layer of gloom, making people unable to see his true thoughts. He suddenly said leisurely, "Why do you have to do this? If you listen to me and go fight the Wolf King, you will at least be able to live for a little longer. Why do you have to make me do it myself?" "What?" Hearing Pang Beiyan's words, Hua Menju and the others were stunned. However, they seemed to have realized something, and their expressions changed drastically. "Senior Pang, have you figured it out?" "Unfortunately, it's already too late." As soon as he finished speaking, Pang Beiyan erupted with enormous pressure. Clang! In midair, a huge sword suddenly appeared. With a ferocious aura that wanted to destroy everything, it slashed at Hua Menju and the others. Fortunately, I'm well prepared for this. Otherwise, caught off guard like this, even Ruyan and I will suffer a huge blow from this sudden attack. These thoughts quickly flashed through Jiang Chengxuan's mind. His figure suddenly expanded at this moment, growing to 30 foot tall in the blink of an eye. Dragon Elephant Divine Power. Infinite Wheel full on. This was not all. A yellow light flashed in his palm, and a halberd that was 3 to 4 meters long appeared. Enhanced by enormous physical strength, Jiang Chengxuan used his intrinsic Dharma treasure, the Deep Earth Halberd, to face the level 4 Dharma treasure sword. There was a loud bang. The entire ancient Origin City trembled. Immediately after, everyone was shocked to see Jiang Chengxuan's huge body suddenly take more than 10 steps back. Every step he took left a huge pit, with a diameter of nearly 4 to 5 meters on the ground. This scene also made Pang Beiyan's pupils constrict slightly. He blocked it. Someone couldn't help but exclaim. His voice was obviously filled with shock and disbelief. It had to be known that Pang Beiyan was a genuine Golden Core cultivator. Although he was most likely only at the first level of the Golden Core, his strength was not something a Violet Palace cultivator could resist. Even false core cultivators could not block a single attack from the Golden Core cultivators. That was how much a difference in strength there was between two major realms. However, Jiang Chengxuan actually managed to block Pang Beiyan's fatal attack head-on. This meant that, although Jiang Chengxuan was only a Violet Palace cultivator, he already had the ability to challenge a Golden Core cultivator. Everyone, including Hua Menju, had never even heard of such a thing, let alone seen it. This was simply unheard of. On the other hand, a terrifying killing intent flashed across Pang Beiyan's face. He stared at Jiang Chengxuan and said in a chilling voice, "Looks like I really underestimated you previously. No wonder you had the ball to question me. At this moment, the huge sword in his hand was raised and slashed at Jiang Chengxuan again. This time, the sword was even faster and carried more power. As a result, the entire ancient origin city began to shake. This panicked Hua Menju and the others. Not good. Ancient origin city can't take it anymore. Now that two powers at the level of Golden Core had collided in ancient origin city, it was impossible for the city to withstand it, especially when there was no one controlling the star's chain array. At this rate, the ancient origin city itself would collapse before the Wolf King, and the other demon beasts needed to attack. However, Pang Beiyan clearly did not care about this, because he was precisely here to destroy ancient origin city. Jiang Chengxuan knew that there was no time to lose. He cast several spells in succession. In an instant, the star's chain array that had already slowed down was in full swing again. Streaks of starlight were channeled down from the sky and gathered in the array, immediately causing the array to erupt with great power. Ancient Origin City, which had been on the verge of collapse because of Pang Beiyan, regained stability under the protection of the array. Pang Beiyan's eyes narrowed into dangerous slits when he saw this scene. He subconsciously looked at the token in his hand. On the token, there was some starlight shining. Clearly, what Jiang Chengxuan had given him previously was not a fake array control. If it was fake, it wouldn't be able to fool the eyes of a golden core. So, there could only be one explanation, which was that Jiang Chengxuan had a backup plan in advance. Damn it! At this moment, Pang Beiyan's expression turned extremely gloomy. His cold eyes were fixed on Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan raised the deep earth halberd in his hand again to block the huge sword Pang Beiyan slashed down. Rumble! There was a loud explosion. The terrifying fluctuation spread in all directions with the sword, and halberd as the center. At the same time, the star's chain array, which had recovered to its peak, managed to withstand the aftershock of the collision. Jiang Chengxuan was forced back again. A large amount of blood seeped out of his halberd-wielding palm, but it was quickly restored by his powerful body. Boom! At the same time, the light screen formed by the star's chain array suddenly flickered. It turned out that the Wolf King and the demon beasts outside had begun to attack ancient Origin City. Jiang Chengxuan's plan to use the array to trap Pang Beiyan was unlikely to work. He waved his hand and threw an array disc with many starlight patterns to Shen Ruyan. Madam, this is the control of this array. From now on, you will be in charge. Shen Ruyan reached out and caught the array disc. She hesitated for a moment before nodding. Understood. She knew very well that with their strength combined and the help of the array, they had a very high chance of killing Pang Beiyan. However, if she was focused on dealing with Pang Beiyan, ancient Origin City would definitely be breached by the Wolf King and the other demon beasts outside. At that time, even if they could kill Pang Beiyan, it would be meaningless. Because once ancient Origin City was breached, even if Shen Ruyan and Jiang Chengxuan had the ability to escape, Hua Menju and the others would definitely die. So, the only way now was for her to be in charge of the array, while Jiang Chengxuan dealt with Pang Beiyan. Although the aftershock of the two of them fighting would bring a certain amount of damage to the array. As long as the spiritual stones were added in time, it could still last for a while. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the battle between Jiang Chengxuan and Pang Beiyan had already reached its climax. Every time the two of them exchanged a move, a huge energy fluctuation would explode. The moment Shen Ruyan took over the array, she immediately partitioned the battlefield off so that it wouldn't affect the city no matter how fiercely they fought. In a hazy space, Jiang Chengxuan knelt on one knee, holding the deep earth halberd with one hand to support his body. He looked at Pang Beiyan, who was also in a sorry state, and could not help but smile coldly. Looks like I overestimated your strength previously. I believe the quality of the golden core you condense should not be good. Jiang Chengxuan had gradually become familiar with Pang Beiyan's attack rhythm. He, who had been at an absolute disadvantage, suddenly observed a weakness in Pang Beiyan's circulation of dharmic power. After identifying this weakness, Jiang Chengxuan attacked decisively. Ignoring his injuries, Jiang Chengxuan erupted with all his strength and sent Pang Beiyan's Dharma treasure sword flying. Then, with the help of the huge weight of the halberd, it ruthlessly landed on a high-grade level 3 Dharma treasure shield that Pang Beiyan had summoned, causing it to break on the spot. With what little power it had left, the halberd pierced the shield and hit Pang Balion's body, almost breaking his bones. If it weren't for the fact that as a golden core cultivator, his reaction speed far exceeded that of ordinary people, that attack just now would have been enough to make Pang Balion pay a huge price. However, after this outburst, Jiang Chengxuan's stamina and dharmic power were almost exhausted. After all, fighting a true golden core cultivator required an unbelievable amount of energy, stamina, and dharmic power. Fortunately, he had the intrinsic dharma treasure, Narcissus Jade, on him. It could recover his dharmic power 3 times in a short period of time. However, even so, if this battle continued to drag on, it would definitely be bad news for Ancient Origin City. Therefore, he had to end the battle as soon as possible. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxuan immediately took out a pill from his body and swallowed it. It was the triple pill. Boom! In an instant, Jiang Chengxuan's aura, which had already weakened, suddenly began to rise again. In just a moment, he returned to his original peak state. However, this improvement did not stop at that. In the blink of an eye, his aura had already surpassed Pang Balion's. Moreover, it was still rising. What? Pang Balion widened his eyes in disbelief. What kind of pill did this guy swallow just now? How was his cultivation rising so rapidly? Buzz! Before Pang Balion could figure it out, Jiang Chengxuan quickly condensed an arrow burning with raging flames in his mind. It was his primordial spirit attack technique, Burning Sun Arrow. Feeling a burning arrow in his sea of consciousness, Pang Balion let out a heartrending scream and fell into a temporary daze. Now is the time. Killing intent flashed across Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. In the next moment, the dragon elephant phantom behind him roared. His body actually grew dozens of feet taller than before, reaching nearly 30 meters tall. The deep earth halberd in his hand had also expanded to more than 10 meters long. With an aggressive aura, it smashed down on Pang Balion's head. Damn it! It was actually a primordial spirit attack. How many more trump cards did this guy have? Pang Balion had just escaped from the attack of the Burning Sun Arrow when he suddenly felt a huge threat approaching. This caused him to panic for a moment. Without any time to think, he immediately took out his level 4 Dharma Treasure sword again. There was a bang. Pang Balion was sent flying by an unimaginable force. The spiritual light on his level 4 Dharma Treasure sword suddenly dimmed. How come? Pang Balion's face was filled with disbelief. He could not accept the fact that, as a golden core cultivator, he was actually losing to a violet palace cultivator. He even had a feeling that his life was in danger. Boom! At this moment, the terrifying halberd light shuttled through air. With a terrifying might that wanted to crush everything, it smashed down on Pang Balion's head again. Damn it! Pang Balion frowned. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood essence on the level 4 Dharma Treasure sword. Buzz, buzz, buzz. After being enhanced by Pang Balion's blood essence, the entire sword lit up again and collided with the halberd. Rumble! The air sucked. The earth-shattering collision even caused cracks to appear in the hazy space. Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrowed. It could be seen that under the impact from both outside the city and inside the city, the star's chain array was struggling to hold on. If anything went wrong, the array would most likely collapse, and this was an outcome no one in the city wanted to see. Therefore, he could not drag it on any longer, nor did he have that much time to drag on. At the thought of this, all the remaining dharmic power in the Narcissus Jade was absorbed by Jiang Chengxuan. Immediately, a vast energy burst out. Die! He suddenly shouted in a deep voice. Immediately after, the deep earth halberd swept towards Pang Balion like a falling meteor. Pang Balion did not dare to be careless. The level 4 Dharma Treasure sword suddenly erupted with layers upon layers of extremely dazzling sword light. He wanted to block Jiang Chengxuan's attack. However, at this moment, a huge mountain suddenly flew out of Jiang Chengxuan's head. The mountain was shrouded in a layer of divine light. As soon as it appeared, the light moved as if it was trying to find its target, and then pointed at the level 4 Dharma Treasure sword before shooting out like an arrow leaving the bow. In an instant, the level 4 Dharma Treasure sword that was originally surging with sword light instantly withered. The entire sword swayed, showing signs of flying towards the mountain uncontrollably. What dual polarity divine mountain? You actually have such a Dharma treasure on you. Pang Bayan's expression changed drastically, and a hint of shock flashed across his eyes. He would never have dreamed that there was such a Dharma treasure on Jiang Chengxuan that could restrain all metal element Dharma treasures in the world. From the looks of it, the dual polarity divine mountain was only a Dharma treasure embryo. However, even so, its restraint effect on level 4 metal element Dharma treasure was already quite obvious. Moreover, Jiang Chengxuan was not yet at the end of his rope. Since he planned to get rid of Pang Bayan in one go, he would not hold back at all. The primordial spirit treasure, vast heaven divine Jade, was activated by him at full force and added to his primordial spirit attack, the Burning Sun Arrow, allowing the Burning Sun Arrow to increase its power by a whopping 70%. Pang Bayan felt as if a red-hot iron was branding his brain repeatedly, causing him to scream in pain. Large amounts of blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. As the deep earth halberd smashed down, Pang Bayan's level 4 Dharma treasure could not resist at all and was sent flying. There was a loud bang. Pang Bayan's body was smashed into pieces, leaving only a golden core floating in the air. Accompanying it was an extremely resentful divine sense that kept emitting from the golden core. One can't accept this. Just you wait, I will definitely make you pay in blood one day. As soon as the voice ended, the golden core suddenly shot out dazzling light. There was a whoosh. Then it disappeared from the spot, wanting to escape. However, at this moment, an invisible sword light suddenly appeared out of the void and in front of the golden core. There was a ding. The sword light slashed straight at the golden core, immediately covering the surface of the golden core with dense cracks. How come? How is this possible? From inside the cracked golden core, an incomparably terrified cry sounded. Jiang Chengxuan ignored it. At this moment, his hands had already formed a spell that landed on the golden core that was covered in cracks. Soon the shouts from inside it disappeared, along with all the light on it. Then Jiang Chengxuan reached out, grabbed it, and imprisoned it in a jade box. This time, there was no way the golden core could escape. Swoosh! With a flash of his body, Jiang Chengxuan rushed out of the hazy space and appeared in ancient origin city again. Everyone who was cooperating with Shen Ruyan to resist the demon beast attack was shocked to see Jiang Chengxuan, especially Hua Menjiu and the other Violet Palace cultivators. No one knew better than them why Jiang Chengxuan was not around just now. At the same time, no one knew better than them how terrifying a golden core cultivator was. Even if that golden core cultivator was only at the first level, he was nonetheless not someone a Violet Palace cultivator or even a false core cultivator could challenge. But Jiang Chengxuan actually came out unscathed. Could it be that Pang Bayan had already died in Jiang Chengxuan's hand? Hua Menjiu and the others were astounded. Everyone, from now on, one need to rest for a few days. 111 leave the rest to you for the time being. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan nodded at Hua Menjiu and the others. Then he took a step forward and came to Shen Ruyan. Wife, I will be weak for 3 days. In these 3 days, I can't do anything. Everything will depend on you. As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Chengxuan's face turned pale. Immediately after, he felt all the strength in his body suddenly recede like a tide. In just a moment, he felt that he could not even stand steadily. He slowly sat down cross-legged. Seeing that, Shen Ruyan was concerned. She looked at Jiang Chengxuan and said, "Husband, are you all right?" As she spoke, Shen Ruyan's hand was already on Jiang Chengxuan's wrist. As a trace of dharmic power was injected, Shen Ruyan quickly understood the reason and heaved a sigh of relief. Thank goodness, her husband was only exhausted. After a few days of recuperation, he should be able to get back up, full of vigor. At the same time, the Wolf King, who was leading a group of demon beasts to attack ancient origin city, suddenly sensed the disappearance of Pang Bayan's aura. It immediately cursed. Useless trash. At this point, it realized that the best opportunity to breach ancient origin city had passed. Next, the only way for them to break into ancient origin city was to wear down the spiritual stones and other resources the human cultivators had. At that time, even without a level 4 demon king, ancient origin city would probably collapse on its own. However, would the Jade Water Sword Pavilion and the Heavenly Yue sect really let a level 4 demon beast from another nation continue to wreak havoc here? Perhaps in a few days, the golden core cultivators of the two sects would rush over. At that time, let alone taking down ancient origin city, even its life was at stake. After taking a deep look in the direction of ancient origin city, the Wolf King decided not to stay any longer. After letting out a long howl, its figure disappeared into the depths of the ancient origin mountain range. Seeing this, Shen Ruyan, who was in charge of the array, and the others who helped her resist the demon beasts, heaved a sigh of relief. To be honest, they did not have much resources left, especially spiritual stones. If the Wolf King persisted for a few more days, the Stars Chain Array would probably stop running. At that time, they would have to face tens of thousands of demon beasts. Fortunately, at least they had some time to catch their breath now. Hopefully, people from the Jade Water Sword Pavilion and the Heavenly Yue sect would come to aid quickly. As elders of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, Hua Menjiu and Li Fei should have already sent a message back to report the incident. 5 days later, a brilliant sword light flew over from the distance and landed in ancient Yuan City. It was Gu Yuefeng, who was known as the Invincible Sword. He looked at Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, Hua Menjiu, and the others. I've already heard about what happened previously. What's the situation now? Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan immediately handed a jade box with layers of restrictions to Gu Yuefeng and said, Senior Gu, Pang Beiyan's golden core is currently sealed in this jade box. I didn't kill him because I wanted to wait for you to personally come and interrogate him. Even though Gu Yuefeng had already roughly learned about the situation in ancient origin city through the message. When Jiang Chengxuan handed the jade box to him willingly, he couldn't help but take a few more approving glances at Jiang Chengxuan and slowly nod. Good. With that, he took the jade box from Jiang Chengxuan and tapped it. Swoosh. The layers of restrictions on the jade box immediately began to melt. At the same time, an unstable fluctuation emitted from the jade box. Then there was a bang. A golden core with cracks all over its surface broke out of the jade box and wanted to escape into the distance. HMPH. However, at this moment, a cold snort sounded in the air, causing the golden core that was about to escape to stop. Gu Yuefeng, you actually came in person. Gu Yuefeng did not waste his breath. After fixing the golden core in place, he tapped at it again. Immediately, a black hole-like vortex appeared in his eyes, causing the fluctuation on the golden core to become weaker and weaker. In the end, with a bang, it exploded into dust. This scene shocked everyone present. They all turned to look at Gu Yuefeng. At this moment, Gu Yuefeng seemed to be reading something with his eyes closed. After a while, he opened his eyes and turned to look at everyone. After a moment, he said, Pang Beiyan joined the demon beast decades ago. The reason why he can condense a golden core is because of the help of the demon beasts. Although his words were succinct, they were like thunder in the ears of Hua Menjiu and the others. A golden core human cultivator was actually a spy for the demon beasts. If this news was to spread, it would really cause a huge commotion. How many human cultivators could resist this temptation when they found out that the demon beasts were willing to help them condense a golden core? Pang Beiyan was the best example. At this moment, Gu Yuefeng continued. This time, he is under the orders of the Flood Dragon King to cooperate with the Wolf King to take down Ancient Origin City and occupy the entire Ancient Origin mountain range, as well as extending their territory to the Northern Forest. The Northern Forest referred to a relatively rich area in the north of Liang Nation. There were several Violet Palace forces guarding it. If their plan really succeeded this time, not only would Liang Nation lose the Ancient Origin mountain range, which was the frontline barrier, but they would also lose the high-grade level for spiritual vein. When they thought of this, Hua Menjiu and the others could not help but feel a lingering fear. Fortunately, Jiang Chengxuan and his Dao companion were around this time. Otherwise, their ending would be tragic. Shifu, what should we do next? Hua Menjiu couldn't help but ask. Hearing her words, everyone present turned to look at Gu Yuefeng. Gu Yuefeng pondered for a moment before saying slowly, Theoretically speaking, not many people know about my coming to Ancient Origin City. The demon beasts, especially the Wolf King, should still be in the dark. Therefore, if possible, one want to use this opportunity to eliminate the demon beasts for you. Really? Hearing Gu Yuefeng's words, Hua Menjiu and the others could not help but reveal surprised expressions. If Gu Yuefeng could really help them get rid of the Wolf King, their lives in ancient origin city in the following days would undoubtedly be much easier. When the demon beasts found out that the golden core cultivator of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, Gu Yuefeng, had been to ancient original city and killed the Wolf King, they would be deterred from launching another attack. But at this point, Gu Yuefeng frowned slightly. As far as I know, the Wolf King is extremely good at escaping. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for me alone to kill it. Therefore, when the time comes, I'm afraid 111 need your help. Don't worry, I won't ask you to face it head-on. You just have to stop it when it is about to escape. As he spoke, he looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. The couple looked at each other and nodded. If it's just helping in the dark, there shouldn't be much of a problem. However, Senior Gu. Jiang Chengxuan suddenly looked at Gu Yuefeng and asked, why did the Wolf King suddenly appear in the Liang Nation? Logically speaking, shouldn't this Demon King be in the territory of the Zheng Nation? This question was also what the others wanted to ask. Gu Yuefeng's eyes suddenly became deep as he shook his head. I don't know the reason either. However, after the Demon Beast riot ended, we would go to the Zheng Nation to ask for an explanation. You'd better be mentally prepared. Gu Yuefeng did not elaborate on what they should be mentally prepared for. However, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were observant and vaguely realized after this Demon Beast riot ended, there would be some changes in the 5 nations of Kangnan region. A few days later, Jiang Chengxuan, who was cultivating in his cave abode, suddenly sensed an extremely ferocious aura coming from outside ancient origin city. This aura belonged to the Wolf King, who had returned after a few days. When he and Shen Ruyan arrived at the east wall of ancient origin city, they saw that there was a mass of demon beasts. Among them, there were more than 30 demon beasts above level 3, most of which were either low or mid-grade. However, this number was enough to pose a threat to the star's chain array. After all, any quantity would undergo a qualitative change after reaching a certain level. Moreover, as the spiritual stones reserve in the city decreased, the power of the array would decrease. If not for the fact that Gu Yuefeng had a large number of spiritual stones on him this time, the star's chain array would already have stopped running. Shifu, what should we do now? Hua Menju could not help but turn to Gu Yuefeng. Her expression was a little ugly. Obviously, she had not expected so many demon beasts to suddenly appear. Including the others present, they did not expect that the Wolf King would come back with so many high-level subordinates. It must have gone to call for help in the past few days. As such, it would be difficult for Gu Yuefeng to kill the Wolf King without alerting the other demon beasts. Especially now, the Wolf King was at the very back of the demon beasts. It seemed that they could only deal with those demon beasts first. This thought flashed across everyone's minds. But at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan suddenly looked at each other. Then Jiang Chengxuan said, Senior Gu, perhaps we have another way. Another way. Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, everyone present turned to look at him. That's right. Jiang Chengxuan nodded. That is to lure the Wolf King over. When the time comes, my wife and one will go out to deal with those level 3 demon beasts. I don't believe that the Wolf King can still sit still at the back. Indeed, with Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's strength, those level 3 demon beasts would probably not be able to stop them. The only one who could pose a threat to them, or even a fatal threat, was the Wolf King. As long as the Wolf King wanted to deal with the 2 of them, it would have to go to the front line. At that time, if Gu Yuefeng could seize the opportunity to deal a fatal blow to the Wolf King, then this level 4 Demon King that entrenched here and posed the greatest threat to ancient origin city would have a high chance of dying. Even if it was lucky enough to survive, it would definitely be severely injured by Gu Yuefeng. In this way, the threat it posed to ancient origin city would be greatly reduced. Moreover, even if something unexpected happened, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could protect themselves. After all, they still had a trump card, the portable void travel array disc. This was enough to help them deal with any sudden changes. At this moment, when the others heard Jiang Chengxuan's suggestion, they nodded in agreement. Based on the current situation, using the method Jiang Chengxuan mentioned was indeed the best solution and had the highest success rate. The only problem was that the risks might be higher. Zhang Rendao could not help but look worried. Hua Menju was also a little hesitant. On the other hand, Gu Yuefeng's expression was as calm as ever. He looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan and thought for a moment. What do you want? Obviously, he knew very well that there was a motive to why Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were willing to take the risk. Jiang Chengxuan said honestly, if we're lucky enough to kill the Wolf King, I hope that my wife and I can choose some of the materials on it first. One wonder what Senior Gu thinks. It had to be known that everything about a level 4 Demon King was a treasure. Take the Wolf King for example. The fur on its body could be used to refine defensive Dharma treasures. Its sharp claws and teeth could also be used to refine offensive Dharma treasures. Even its bones, flesh, and blood could be used to refine some Dharma treasures with special attributes. In addition, its level 4 demon core was the main material for refining the core forming pill and core condensing pill. Of course, the main reason why Jiang Chengxuan proposed this idea was because he wanted to see if he could personally end the life of the Wolf King. If he could, he would be able to complete the system mission. The rewards for completing such a mission wouldn't be bad. Gu Yuefeng did not reject Jiang Chengxuan's request. He nodded and said, okay. Following that, the few of them discussed some details that they might need to pay attention to. When it was almost time, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan arrived outside ancient Yuan City decisively. Under the command of the moon-swallowing Silver Wolf, a few low-grade and mid-grade level 3 demon beasts were attacking the star's chain array crazily. When they suddenly saw Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan appear, they were slightly stunned. Obviously, these demon beasts never expected that the people in ancient Origin City would come out to fight them without the protection of the array. Roar! However, before these low-grade level 3 and mid-grade level 3 demon beasts could react, the high-grade level 3 moon-swallowing Silver Wolf roared in fear and ran away. It knew how powerful Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were. Back then, it was the two of them who killed the false level 4 demon beasts, the bladed golden eagle and the ironback bear. It did not have the slightest confidence that it could stop these two people. However, although it reacted quickly, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's attacks were faster. Two sword lights appeared at the same time. The moon-swallowing Silver Wolf only flew for 100 meters before its huge body suddenly froze in the air, on which two fresh sword marks had appeared. Then the entire body was split into 3 on the spot and fell. This scene immediately stunned all the demon beasts present. The high-grade level 3 demon beast, the moon-swallowing Silver Wolf, could not even withstand a blow from Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. If the moon-swallowing Silver Wolf was already like this, wouldn't it be even more dangerous for them, who were far weaker, to face the two of them? Run! Almost in an instant, this thought appeared in the minds of all the demon beasts. However, before they could carry out their plan, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan attacked again. In an instant, sword light and lightning intertwined. Treasure 2. In just a moment, 6 to 7 level 3 demon beasts died at the hands of the couple. When the other level 3 demon beasts saw this, they ran faster and crazier. The strength of the couple had already exceeded level 3. Therefore, every blow they dealt was fatal to level 3 demon beasts like them. Under such circumstances, what else could they do if they did not run for their lives? The eyes of the Wolf King, who was behind the demon beasts, darkened. It suddenly let out a heaven-shaking roar. A pressure unique to the golden core swept past the demon beasts that were escaping. Anyone who dares to escape will die immediately. As soon as it finished speaking, hundreds if not thousands of low-level demon beasts that were fleeing with a group of level 3 demon beasts suddenly exploded into blood mist. This immediately frightened the level 3 demon beasts. They stopped in unison and looked at the Wolf King in horror. Why, do you want me to say the same thing a second time? The Wolf King spoke coldly again. At the same time, a murderous pressure suddenly descended on Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Humans, you've really angered me this time. As soon as it finished speaking, the Wolf King suddenly flashed and appeared in front of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. The couple's pupils constricted violently. At this moment, they truly felt a great threat, the kind of which was not something Pang Beiyan could pose. Die! Suddenly, a red light shot out of the Wolf King's mouth. The red light expanded as it passed the wind. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a wolf-headed saber that was nearly 1,000 feet long and slashed down at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Not good. Jiang Chengxuan's heart skipped a beat. He did not hesitate at all. The infinite wheel erupted with all its might. The dragon elephant divine power was also activated to the extreme. Whoosh! In an instant, he went from the size of a normal person to nearly 20 meters tall. The deep earth halberd in his hand produced an ear-piercing whistle in midair as it faced the wolf-headed saber. At the same time, lightning flashed around Shen Ruyan, and she gradually became one with lightning. It was her physical divine power, the thunder spirit true body. Rumble! Bolts of lightning kept falling from the sky and struck the wolf-headed saber. Boom! 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 A series of explosions sounded in the air. The terrifying airwave spread crazily in all directions. Some demon beasts could not dodge in time. Their bodies immediately dissipated inch by inch like sand. In the air, a red, silver, and yellow ball of light appeared, constantly clashing against each. Then the ball of light exploded. Two figures were sent flying back. They were Jiang Chengxuan, who was holding the deep earth halberd, and Shen Ruyan, who had transformed into the lightning. The two of them had more or less suffered some injuries. Only the Wolf King remained standing in the air with a majestic aura. It did not seem to be injured at all. The killing intent in its eyes suddenly rose. Just as it was about to launch the next round of attacks on Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, it sensed an extremely dangerous aura. This made its heart skip a beat for no reason. At that moment, it could no longer be bothered to deal with Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. The level 4 Dharma treasure, the wolf-headed saber, suddenly returned to its side. It was at that moment that a ding sounded. A dazzling spark suddenly appeared on the wolf-headed saber that it had just retracted. A force that even it could not withstand instantly passed through the wolf-headed saber onto its body, causing its entire body to suddenly fly back. Boom, boom, boom. Several mountains were penetrated by the Wolf King. A huge cloud of dust rose in the sky. Everyone could not help but look shocked. PFFFD. Meanwhile, a domineering and sharp sword light suddenly swept past the Wolf King's body and cut it into two. Arg! The Wolf King's scream echoed in the air. Then it seemed to understand something, and its voice immediately became extremely terrified. Invincible sword Gu Yuefeng. You are Gu Yuefeng of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. What answered it was a sword light that was even more domineering and sharp than before. There was a ripping sound. The Wolf King, who was still running crazily with half its body, suddenly froze. Then a bloody line was seen appearing on its head. The bloody line continued downwards until the other half of the Wolf King's body was separated into two. It was only at this moment that Gu Yuefeng's figure slowly appeared in everyone's eyes. However, he did not look relaxed at all after killing the Wolf King. This was because its aura did not disappear. It only decreased by a lot. Something was wrong. Buzz. At the same time, a strange fluctuation appeared several kilometers away. Everyone immediately turned around to find that the Wolf King, whose body had been destroyed by Gu Yuefeng, appeared again, its body intact. One could only tell from the fluctuation of its aura that it was not in a good state. What is going on? Everyone was stunned. Just now, Gu Yuefeng had clearly destroyed the body of the Wolf King. Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and the other Violet Palace cultivators could confirm this. But now it's still up and kicking. A death substitution treasure. It has a death substitution treasure on it. Shen Ruyan murmured. Hearing her words, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrowed. On the other side, Gu Yuefeng also had a solemn expression. Clearly, they all knew what death substitution treasure was and what it meant. To put it simply, it was something that could suffer a lethal blow in your place. Of course, there was a limit to the damage it could withstand for you. If a nascent soul cultivator wanted to kill you with all his might, even if you had a death substitution treasure, it wouldn't be of any use. Unless your death substitution treasure was at the same level as a nascent soul cultivator, you might still have a chance of survival. Of course, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that anyone who could have a death substitution treasure must have a powerful backer, who might be in or above the nascent soul. In other words, it was very likely that there was a level 5 demon emperor behind the Wolf King. Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Gu Yuefeng looked at each other with a hint of seriousness in their eyes. Obviously, they all realized the seriousness of the problem. However, now that things had come to this, no matter what, they could not let this Wolf King leave alive. At the thought of this, a sharp glint flashed across Gu Yuefeng's eyes. He turned into a brilliant sword light with the power to destroy everything, and slashed at the Wolf King who was trying to escape again. Danger! Run! The Wolf King once again felt a great threat of death approaching. Desperate, it began to burn its blood to speed up. Given the distance between the two sides, there was a high chance that the Wolf King could dodge this attack by burning its blood essence. Once that happened, it would be extremely difficult for Gu Yuefeng to catch up to it again. After all, they were pretty much at the same level. After burning its blood essence, the Wolf King's speed suddenly increased, and the distance between it and Gu Yuefeng was also gradually widening. This gave it some time to catch breaths. Then, an almost uncontrollable hatred surged in its heart. Gu Yuefeng and everyone else today, just you wait. In the future, I will definitely make you and the entire human race pay a painful price. The Wolf King was relieved to find that the distance between it and Gu Yuefeng was continuously increasing. According to this rate, it was only a matter of time before it escaped from Gu Yuefeng's pursuit, as long as it entered the territory of the demon beasts. At that time, if Gu Yuefeng still dared to chase, he would not be able to go back alive. Just as this thought flashed through its mind, the Wolf King was suddenly shocked to see a figure appear in front of it. The figure was none other than Jiang Chengxuan, who had just suffered some injuries. Unexpectedly, he had come here in advance to wait for the Wolf King. Do you think you can stop me? A strong evilness rose in the Wolf King's heart, turning its eyes red. All right, since you took the initiative to come to my door to die, I'll fulfill your wish. With that thought in mind, the Wolf King took out the wolf-headed saber again. The wolf-headed saber was surrounded by layers of blood flames. With an abnormally shrill whistle, it slashed at Jiang Chengxuan's head. This attack contained all its strength. The Wolf King was very confident in succeeding. However, Jiang Chengxuan did not take out his Dharma treasure. Instead, he reached out and flipped his hand when a red talisman appeared in his hand. Boom! Soon, raging flames rose on the talisman. Accompanying this was a long cry that sounded like the howling wind. What is that? The Wolf King's expression changed drastically. This was because it recognized that the talisman Jiang Chengxuan took out was a level 4 talisman. Heavenly Flame Talisman. Boom! In an instant, the figure of a 1,000-feet-long fire phoenix suddenly appeared in the sky. When the Wolf King's blood-colored saber landed on its body, an extremely terrifying fluctuation erupted. Flames and saber beams intertwined, causing the air and the surrounding to distort. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Even the trees below were burning fiercely. The raging fire instantly filled a radius of dozens of kilometers. In the end, the mid-grade level 4 Heavenly Flame Talisman and the wolf-headed saber were both demolished. However, after this delay, Gu Yuefeng, who had turned into a sword, caught up. Seeing this, the Wolf King immediately cried out in fear. Oh, I can't accept this. Boom! As soon as it finished speaking, the blood essence in the Wolf King's body burned again. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Streaks of blood-colored claw light shot out from its body. However, they were all destroyed by the sword light Gu Yuefeng transformed into. In the end, the sword light pierced right through the Wolf King's body. The Wolf King's eyes widened. Then its body exploded like fireworks. Swoosh! At the same time, a red demon core suddenly rushed out of the exploded body and was about to escape into the distance. However, at this moment, an attack on the primordial spirit struck the red demon core. The Wolf King immediately felt an arrow with raging flames pass through its primordial spirit, causing it to let out a series of miserable cries. In the end, the miserable cries grew weaker and weaker until it completely disappeared. Jiang Chengxuan grabbed the level 4 demon core that no longer had any divine sense left. At this moment, a system notification suddenly sounded in his mind. Ding! Congratulations, host. You have achieved the first kill of a level 4 demon beast. You have obtained a tribulation avoidance pearl and a bottle of Sky Brilliance Dew. It seemed that his previous guess was right. As long as he dealt the final attack on the Wolf King, the system would credit him for killing it. At that moment, he carefully checked the 2 items rewarded by the system. As the name suggested, the Tribulation Avoidance Pearl was a treasure that could be used to avoid tribulations. It was especially effective against the heavenly tribulations. Coincidentally, after the Demon Beast riot ended, both he and Shen Ruyan would face the test of condensing their cores. Among these tests, the most dangerous step was the heavenly tribulation. At that time, this tribulation avoidance pearl might be useful. Then there was the sky brilliance dew. The only use of this item was to help cultivators break through to the golden core. It could help a cultivator increase the success rate of condensing a golden core by about 20%. The most important thing was that there were no side effects or hidden dangers when consuming this. Moreover, there was a chance to increase the quality of the golden core. Its value was not inferior to the number one spiritual item, the core formation pill. In fact, it might be even better. At that moment, be it Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, or Gu Yuefeng, they were not in a hurry to return to ancient origin city. Instead, they began to slaughter the level 3 demon beasts present. In just a short moment, all the level 3 demon beasts that came to attack ancient origin city had died in the hands of the three of them. It was only then that Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Gu Yuefeng returned to ancient Yuan city. After a while, in the meeting hall of ancient origin city, Gu Yuefeng, Jiang Chengxuan, and all the Violet Palace cultivators were gathered here. Everyone's faces were solemn. Hua Menju said to Gu Yuefeng, "Shifu, will anything happen after we kill the Wolf King?" Hearing her words, the rest turned their gazes to Gu Yuefeng. Clearly, they knew what Hua Menju was referring to. Gu Yuefeng did not answer immediately. Instead, after pondering for a moment, he slowly said, "LL, report it to the Hidden Sword Palace in the state of Yu later. One don't think there will be much of a problem." The Hidden Sword Palace in the state of Yu that Gu Yuefeng was talking about was the nascent soul sect closest to the Kangnan region. All along, the 5 nations in the Kangnan region would regularly offer a considerable amount of resources in exchange for their protection. Of course, only when you encountered a threat above the nascent soul would the Hidden Sword Palace interfere. Just like now, as long as Gu Yuefeng reported this matter to the higher-ups, if there was a level 5 demon emperor behind the Wolf King who really planned to do something, then nascent soul cultivators of the same level in the Hidden Sword Palace would show up. This was why he said that it was not a big problem. Instead, what seemed problematic was why the Wolf King that was supposed to be in the Zheng Nation would appear in the Liang Nation. When they realized that the Wolf King might be related to a level 5 demon emperor, they knew that this matter was not as simple as it seemed. Perhaps the Liang Nation had already been schemed against. Someone wanted to use the Liang Nation to get rid of the Wolf King and cause them to suffer the wrath of the level 5 demon emperor. If that was really the case, it would be intolerable. The Liang Nation would not let this matter rest so easily. At this moment, everyone present clearly realized this, and their expressions turned ugly. Gu Yuefeng continued, "I'll stay here for the time being. One will only consider leaving after one receive confirmation from the Hidden Sword Palace in the state of Yu. All right, let's leave it at that for today." As he spoke, he looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. "Young friends, regarding the distribution of the items on the Wolf King, let's do it the way we agreed upon previously. Its demon core and flesh are yours. As for its level 4 Dharma treasure, I'll take care of it for the time being. I might need it in the future. Do you have any objections towards this arrangement?" "Senior Gu, we have no objections." Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan shook their heads. This was something that both sides had already discussed. After everyone left, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan returned to their cave abode. "Ruyan, if you use this level 4 demon core as the main ingredient, how confident are you to refine a core formation pill?" As soon as he returned to his cave abode, Jiang Chengxuan asked Shen Ruyan. Shen Ruyan thought for a moment and said, "I'm quite confident." "Why, husband, are you planning to use a core formation pill to break through to the golden core?" "Not really." Yang Chengxuan shook his head. "I'm just thinking that Rendao and the others might need this pill when the time comes. I believe you are also planning not to use these ordinary external items to break through to the golden core, right?" "Indeed." With his and Shen Ruyan's foundation and current qualifications, using external items like the core formation pill to break through would only waste their potential. They would not choose to be like most cultivators who entered the false core first, before taking it slowly to condense their core. Instead, they would choose to directly condense the core to break through. However, that way, the risk would undoubtedly be much greater than the former, especially without the help of core formation spiritual items. On the other hand, the benefit was that this way, the core they formed would be at least level 7, which was considered a high-grade core. If they used spiritual items, such as the Sky Brilliants do, it was very possible for the core to reach level 9 or even exceed the domain of high grade. Only then could they be considered to have a limitless future and a great potential to obtain the immortal Tao. The couple chatted for a while about this matter. In the end, Shen Ruyan changed the topic. This time, we killed the Wolf King with Senior Gu. According to Senior Gu, there shouldn't be much of a problem. Still, they have to be as careful as possible. Even if the level 5 Demon Emperor would not personally attack us, level 4 Demon Kings should be very willing to take our heads to the level 5 Demon Emperor to receive rewards. Therefore, the best way to ensure our safety is to increase our strength as much as possible. If we can break through to the Golden Core, no matter how many Demon Kings come looking for us, we are not too worried. Yang Chengxuan approved of Shen Ruyan's words. He couldn't help but nod and say, "Ruyan, you're right. Nothing is more reliant than our own strength." Also, one have a feeling that what happened this time might cause an irreconcilable conflict between the Liang nation and the Zheng nation. At that time, the conflicts that built up over many decades between the three nations on our side and Zheng and Shu nations might completely erupt. If that really happens, we won't be able to stay out of it even if we want. At this point, the couple seemed to have foreseen a future, and their expressions could not help but become a little solemn. By the way, at that moment, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly thought of something and asked Shen Ruyan, "Now that you're only a step away from breaking through to the Golden Core, one wonder if you have any thoughts or preparations." Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Shen Ruyan nodded. "One do have some thoughts. However, everything will have to wait until after the Demon Beast riot. Indeed, at this time, it was not suitable to advance to the Golden Core. First of all, there was no safe environment. Then there was a lack of resources. Among them, the most important and indispensable was the level 4 spiritual vein. After all, when cultivators attempted to break through to the Golden Core, they needed a large amount of spiritual qi. Relying on spiritual stones or level 3 spiritual veins was not enough. So, if they wanted to attempt to condense a Golden Core, they had to do it safely and in an environment with sufficient spiritual qi. And these were only the two most basic requirements in this process. At this moment, Shen Ruyan paused for a moment and continued. "However, there's no harm in telling you first. Not long ago, one awakened another part of my memory. In that memory, there are some resources I left for myself to break through to the Golden Core. They are located in a certain area of the Zheng nation. After the Demon Beast riot ends, we can go and look for it together. It shouldn't be difficult to find. I believe there are also some things that should be of great use to you." "Oh?" Hearing Shen Ruyan's words, Jiang Chengxuan's heart skipped a beat. Judging from Shen Ruyan's tone, she seemed to be quite confident about the exact location this time. Just like that, the couple chatted about this topic for a while before separating temporarily. A few days later, in Jiang Chengxuan's cave abode, rays of 5-colored spiritual light flickered on the surface of his body. As this was happening, the spiritual pressure around Jiang Chengxuan was also rising at a speed visible to the naked eye. About a few hours later, the sound of something snapping was heard. The spiritual pressure around him seemed to have broken through some shackles. Immediately after, a wave of dharmic power that was even more majestic and rich than before suddenly appeared in his body. This put a smile on his face. He finally broke through to the 9th level of the Violet Palace. At this moment, he could clearly feel that his dharmic power had increased by more than 40% compared to before. If he were to fight Pang Bayan again, it would definitely not be as difficult as before. Meanwhile, at a place called the Vast Canyon, a huge wolf with golden fur, a vertical pupil on its forehead, and an aura as vast as the sea, was walking towards the territory of the Carignan region. Wherever he passed, all the vegetation, soil, rocks, and even demon beasts shattered into pieces. Within 1,000 miles, living beings were prostrating on ground and trembling. Their eyes were filled with indescribable fear. At this moment, a person dressed in white and barefooted appeared in front of the huge wolf. He looked like a 7- or 8-year-old child with a purple sword mark between his eyebrows. The two sides looked at each other from 500 feet away. After a while, the huge golden wolf spoke in human language. "Xuan Yang boy, are you sure you want to stop me?" When the child called Xianxia boy heard this, he frowned slightly and said in a voice filled with the vicissitudes of life, "Golden Wolf Demon Emperor, you know that it was your demon race who broke the agreement first. I won't let you pass, stand down." Hearing this, the Golden Wolf Demon Emperor's eyes suddenly became fierce. Golden flames rose from its body and swept out. Within a radius of dozens of kilometers, it instantly turned into a sea of flames. However, Xianxia boy just stood there without moving or saying anything. A moment later, all the golden flames dissipated. The Golden Wolf Demon Emperor stared at Xianxia boy for a while. The fierce light in its eyes flickered and then dimmed. In the end, it lowered its eyes and said slowly, "The Wolf King of Mount Fu is considered one of the children with a relatively close bloodline to me. Now that it has died at the hands of you humans, my subordinates will not tolerate it. You can stop me, but can you stop my subordinates from taking revenge?" "Have you?" However, what answered the Golden Wolf Demon Emperor was a sneer from Xianxia boy. "What does that have to do with me?" The Golden Wolf Demon Emperor was confused. Xianxia boy continued, "I'm only responsible for stopping you. As for whether the people who killed that little wolf could withstand the revenge of your subordinates, it has nothing to do with me. If they are really unlucky and die in the hands of your subordinates, it can only mean that they are incompetent. Why should I waste my time and effort on a few incompetent people? In other words, if those people could withstand the revenge of the Wolf Emperor's subordinates, it meant that they were capable. To capable people, Xianxia boy would never mind giving some help." "Humph, interesting." The Golden Wolf Demon Emperor sneered at Xianxia boy's words. "In that case, let's wait and see." With that, the Golden Wolf Demon Emperor did not stay any longer. Its huge body suddenly turned into a golden light and instantly disappeared. Seeing this, Xianxia boy also sneered. He raised his eyes and looked in the direction of the Liang nation of the Kangnan region. Then, he did not stay any longer. His petite body turned into a purple light and instantly disappeared into the distant sky. A week later, Gu Yuefeng found Jiang Chengxuan and the other Violet Palace cultivators, and told them that he was preparing to leave ancient Origin City today. He told them that the matter of the Wolf King had been properly handled. When everyone heard this, they heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for the demon beasts to send a demon king above level 4 here, so there was no point for Gu Yuefeng to continue staying. Moreover, as a late-stage golden core cultivator, he still had many missions and responsibilities. After he was away for so long, the few places where he was supposed to preside over sent an emergency message. If he did not return soon, those places would probably be destroyed. So, after Gu Yuefeng explained this to everyone, he did not waste any more time. His figure turned into a sword light and quickly disappeared from the sky of ancient Origin City. In the following period of time, the scale of the demon beast riot targeting ancient Origin City clearly dwindled. Even the presence of level 3 demon beasts was nowhere to be seen. Come to think of it, it made sense. During this period of time, the number of level 3 demon beasts that had died in ancient Origin City could be said to be huge. Such a number of level 3 demon beasts being mobilized was unheard of. There was even the demise of a level 4 demon beast. It could be imagined when this news spread. It would definitely cause a commotion in the 5 nations of Kangnan region. Just like that, another 3 years passed. In the past 3 years, the number of demon beasts appearing in ancient Origin City were negligible. Especially in the past half a year, they had not even seen a single demon beast. This situation lasted until the end of the demon beast riot. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan looked at the clean battlefield outside ancient Origin City. Suddenly, the system's voice sounded in his mind. "Ding! Congratulations, host. You have ensured the survival of all your companions. You have obtained a wisp of 9 revolutions purple chi, a tribulation, avoidance pearl, and a Dharma treasure advancement talisman." The tribulation avoiding pearl had been introduced. As the name suggested, the Dharma treasure advancement talisman was something that could help Dharma treasures advance to a new level. On the other hand, the 9 revolutions purple chi was the most useful and precious thing to Jiang Chengxuan among the 3 rewards from the system. Especially in the process of advancing to the golden core, it had the function irreplaceable by any other previous items. It could help Jiang Chengxuan bring his potential to the maximum, when breaking through to the golden core. This was something that the Sky Brilliants do, and even core formation spiritual items could not compare to. They were not even on the same level. Just as Jiang Chengxuan was thinking about this, Shen Ruyan, Jiang Rendao, and the others arrived beside him. Shen Ruyan said, "Husband, we can go back now." These words made Jiang Rendao and the other Jiang family cultivators unable to help but reveal excited expressions. Jiang Chengxuan turned to look at them. True. In the past 6 to 7 years, almost half of the time was spent in battle. During this period, they even experienced countless life and death situations. The family head, Zhang Reni, and the others might have died in this demon beast riot if not for the bean soldier pill Jiang Chengxuan had given them. He carefully looked around at everyone. Only then did Jiang Chengxuan realize that some of the familiar faces were no longer around. They were forever left on this battlefield. However, there were also some new faces who advanced from Qi refinement to foundation establishment. First, it was Zhang Rendao, Zhang Reni, and Zhang Renquan. After this demon beast riot, the three brothers' cultivation had improved greatly. Among them, Zhang Rendao broke through to the 4th level of the Violet Palace and truly stepped into the domain of mid-stage Violet Palace. The family head, Zhang Reni, had also reached the peak of the 9th level of the foundation establishment and had the qualification to break through to the Violet Palace in the near future. Even Zhang Renquan had broken through to the 8th level of the foundation establishment. As for Jiang Yunru, Jiang Yuncheng, and the other juniors, most of them had stepped into the mid-stage of the foundation establishment. It was foreseeable that after this, the status of the Jiang family in the Liang nation would reach another height. At this moment, not far away, Hua Minju, Li Fei, Bai Mingxian, Bai Yuanchen, and Bai Zixuan also walked over. Hua Minju said, "Fellow Taoist Chengxuan, fellow Taoist Ruyan, although the demon beast riot has ended, there are still many follow-up matters. Junior brother Li Fei and I won't stay for long. We have to return to the sect first." After a pause, Hua Minju continued. "As for the distribution of the rewards after the battle, after everything is settled, one will personally send a message to inform you." Okay, then 111 have to trouble fellow Taoist Hua. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan nodded at Hua Minju. After that, the two of them greeted Li Fei. Only then did Hua Minju and Li Fei fly into the sky and disappear. Fellow Taoist Chengxuan, fellow Taoist Ruyan. At this moment, Bai Mingxian came over with a smile and greeted the two of them. After working together over the past 3 years, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had already built a good relationship with the Bai family. After exchanging pleasantries as usual, Bai Mingxian bade farewell to the two of them. "We plan to leave now. In the future, if the two of you are free, you are more than welcome to come to our Bai family as guests. At that time, I will personally receive you." "Of course." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan immediately cupped their fists at Bai Mingxian and nodded at Bai Yuanchen and Bai Zixuan. After the Bai family left, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan finally looked at the other two people present. A man and a woman. They were from the Jade Water Sword Pavilion and the Heavenly Yue sect, both of whom were Violet Palace cultivators. They were sent here to take over and protect ancient Origin City. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan greeted the two of them. Then he led the Jiang family and disappeared from the sky above ancient Origin City. Looking at the departing cultivators of the Jiang family, the Violet Palace female cultivator from the Heavenly Yue sect suddenly said, "If nothing goes wrong, the two from the Jiang family will probably break through to the Golden Core soon, right? At that time, when we see them again, we will have to call them seniors." The male Violet Palace cultivator from the Jade Water Sword Pavilion glanced at her and smiled. "That's right. However, according to what I know, the Tao companion of Taoist Hua Fei from your sect seems to have a lot of hatred towards them." These words seemed to have reminded the female cultivator of something sad. After a while, she smiled bitterly and said, "There is no more hatred now. The two of them unfortunately died in this demon beast riot. As for my Shifu, it's even more impossible for him to fall out with two people who have the potential to enter the Golden Core. That's not necessary, and it's even more meaningless." Hearing this, the male cultivator nodded slightly. He believed that the female cultivator was telling the truth. Qian County, Mount Mystic Tai, the Jiang immortal family. When Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan led the Jiang family cultivators back to the family base, it immediately caused a commotion. Supreme Elder Liu Linglong led all the Jiang family members to welcome their triumphant return. It was not an exaggeration to say that ancient origin city guarded by their ancestors was intact. Not only did they push back the demon beast's advance, but they also protected a large area of their human territory. Their contributions were outstanding. In the sky, several treasure ships marked with the Jiang family's flag gradually approached Mount Mystic Tai. The Supreme Elder, Liu Linglong, immediately bowed to the treasure ship in the lead with a few Foundation establishment elders. "Welcome back, ancestors! Welcome back, ancestors! Welcome back, ancestors!" These voices echoed throughout the entire Mount Mystic Tai. Even many cultivators outside Mount Mystic Tai heard this sound. At this moment, on the level 3 high-grade treasure ship in the lead, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at the Jiang family members below and couldn't help but feel a little emotional. The demon beast riot did not last long, but it left an extremely deep impact on everyone. They encountered a level 4 demon king and a human trader at the Golden Core realm. If not for the fact that Jiang Chengxuan was well prepared, he and all the cultivators in ancient origin city might die. Fortunately, all of this was in the past. What awaited them next was the fruit of victory that they deserved. Jiang Chengxuan nodded at Liu Linglong and the others below. Then he brought the returning Jiang family cultivators into Mount Mystic Tai. Several hours later, in the Jiang family's meeting hall, Liu Linglong told Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and the others about the changes in the Jiang family over the years. As they listened, they nodded with joy. During the time that Jiang Chengxuan and the others were away, several Foundation establishment cultivators were nurtured, including those who had broken through to Foundation establishment in ancient origin city over the years. Currently, the number of Foundation establishment cultivators in the entire Jiang family had already reached 31. And as time passed, this number would definitely continue to increase. In addition, in the past few years, the Jiang family had also discovered a miniature spiritual stone mine and a small spiritual stone mine. It was quite a good harvest. Most importantly, with the Jiang family's current strength, it was not a problem at all to protect these two spiritual stone mines. After learning about the development of the Jiang family from Liu Linglong, Jiang Chengxuan finally spoke. Next, there are two most important things for the Jiang family to do. One is to go to the Jade Water Sword Pavilion to receive the distribution of gains after the Demon Beast riot. Two is to think of a way to raise the spiritual vein of the Jiang family to level 4. The former will probably not happen anytime soon. As for the latter, we can start preparing now. Oh! Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Liu Linglong, Jiang Rendao, and the others could not help but look puzzled. After all, in their understanding, it was not easy to increase the level and grade of a spiritual vein. In the end, Jiang Rendao said, "Granduncle, do you have any ideas on how to improve the spiritual vein?" "You could say that." Jiang Chengxuan did not hide it from everyone. He nodded and said, "I believe everyone still remembers the water apricot tree on the level 3 water vein, right?" Water apricot tree. When they heard Jiang Chengxuan mention this, everyone held their breath. Jiang Rendao looked at Jiang Chengxuan and asked, "Granduncles, you mean?" Jiang Chengxuan nodded. "I plan to find a way to move it to Mount Mystic Tai. That tree has already reached the peak of level 3. As long as it's nurtured with some spiritual items, the water apricot tree will have a high chance of breaking through to level 4. At that time, with the nourishment of the water apricot tree, this level 3 spiritual vein of Mount Mystic Tai will have a high chance of advancing to level 4 as well." It was undeniable that Jiang Chengxuan's idea was very likely to come true. As long as they could successfully move the water apricot tree to Mount Mystic Tai and try to advance it to level 4, then the level 3 spiritual vein they were on was indeed very likely to become a level 4 spiritual vein. But here comes the problem. How could they move the level 3 water apricot tree to Mount Mystic Tai? It had to be known that the growth of the heaven and earth spiritual roots was supported by some rules. If the rules were broken, it would cause the spiritual root to wither and die. At that time, they might not be able to protect the water apricot tree. This was a high-grade level 3 spiritual root that could regularly provide the Jiang family with water apricot fruits. Once they lost it, it would be a huge loss to the Jiang family. Moreover, even if they successfully moved the water apricot tree to Mount Mystic Tai, how could they advance it to level 4? As if knowing what was on their minds, Jiang Chengxuan said with a smile, "Trust me on this. You just have to make the corresponding preparations." Hearing this, Jiang Rendao, Liu Linglong, and the others could not help but look at each other. Then they stood up and cupped their fists. Yes. A few days later, Liang Nation, the Heavenly Origin Lake. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan arrived with a group of Jiang family cultivators. This time, they only had one goal, which was to move the level 3 water apricot tree to Mount Mystic Tai. With the current status and strength of the Jiang family, they no longer cared if the existence of this level 3 water vein was exposed. They could even make this place the second stronghold of the Jiang family. As for why they had to move the water apricot tree to Mount Mystic Tai and not let it continue to stay here, the reason was very simple. As the base for the Jiang family since the beginning, Mount Mystic Tai had a fundamental meaning to the Jiang family. It was no longer just a spiritual mountain. Instead, it was a symbol, the symbol of a family's inheritance. Losing it was equivalent to losing the soul. It would make many members of the family lose a sense of belonging. In other words, it was more symbolic than anything else. It couldn't be easily replaced. Moreover, the Heavenly Origin Lake where the level 3 water vein was located was not a perfect place for a family or sect to thrive. So, even if they knew that it would be better for the water apricot tree to continue growing in this level 3 water vein, Jiang Chengxuan and the others had to move it to Mount Mystic Tai. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and the other Jiang family cultivators arrived at the place where the level 3 water vein was hidden. As Shen Ruyan removed the concealment array, a thick water essence qi surged out. Some cultivators in the Heavenly Origin Lake immediately sensed the change in this place and looked at the Jiang family cultivators. A hint of shock unconsciously appeared on their faces. Level 3 water vein. Clearly, everyone knew what a level 3 water vein meant. Just as greed was rising in their hearts, they were frightened out of their wits by an extremely terrifying aura. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan was using the spiritual root transfer technique, rewarded by the system to move the water apricot tree into a huge container that had been prepared beforehand. In the container, there was spiritual liquid specially concocted by Jiang Chengxuan. It was to ensure that the water apricot tree would not be damaged during the transportation. Rumble. The level 3 spiritual root was uprooted from the ground, causing a huge commotion. In the end, after several hours, Jiang Chengxuan carried the water apricot tree and returned to Mount Mystic Tai. In the sky, a figure that could not be captured with ordinary divine sense quickly flew into the distance. The aura emitted by this figure made everyone who sensed it instinctively feel fear. After Jiang Chengxuan carried the water apricot tree back to Mount Mystic Tai, he planted it in the area with the most spiritual qi. Rumble. As the water apricot tree was planted, all the Jiang members could clearly sense that the spiritual qi seemed to have increased by a notch on the original foundation. Many people could not help but reveal a trace of joy on their faces. In this way, their future cultivation would undoubtedly be smoother and quicker. However, this was not over yet. After Jiang Chengxuan successfully planted the water apricot tree, he immediately took out the wisp of spiritual cloud purple qi he had obtained from the system. Buzz. As if sensing the existence of a treasure that could allow it to advance, the water apricot tree, which had been forcefully transported here and looked a little listless, suddenly opened all the branches on its body and emitted an extreme desire to absorb. Jiang Chengxuan could not help but laugh. He didn't let the water apricot tree wait for too long. Soon, he threw the wisp of purple qi in his hand to the water apricot tree. Rustle. In an instant, the water apricot tree began to shake happily. Purple light spots began to appear on its body, quickly connecting. In just a moment, the entire water apricot tree was enveloped in purple qi. A vibrant and vigorous aura suddenly emanated from the water apricot tree. All the Jiang members on Mount Mystic Tai felt it again. At this moment, the spiritual qi seemed to have increased significantly compared to before. If the concentration of spiritual qi that had just increased was 1, then the concentration of spiritual qi that had just increased was 4. Moreover, the increase in the concentration of spiritual qi was still slowly increasing. It could be imagined that the concentration of spiritual qi on Mount Mystic Tai would definitely reach an extremely exaggerated level in the future. At the same time, Shen Ruyan, Liu Linglong, and the others who were at the level 3 water vein of the heavenly origin lake had also returned to Mount Mystic Tai. When they saw the water apricot tree that was wrapped in purple light and constantly emitting vitality, their eyes revealed a trace of shock and disbelief. "Husband, this is?" Shen Ruyan was the first to ask. Jiang Chengxuan nodded and said, "That's right. The water apricot tree is currently in the process of advancing. One believed that in no time it should be able to successfully advance to level 4. Really?" Everyone could not help but look happy. If the water apricot tree could really successfully advance to level 4, as Jiang Chengxuan had said, then it was very likely that the spiritual vein on Mount Mystic Tai would also advance to level 4. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan also asked about the situation of the level 3 water vein. After confirming that Shen Ruyan and the others had taken care of the water vein, he nodded. "Next, we just have to wait for news from the Jade Water Sword Pavilion." Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, Hua Menju sent a message to him and Shen Ruyan. The couple scanned the message. Then they smiled and said to Jiang Rendao, Jiang Reni, and the others, "The Jade Water Sword Pavilion has already come to a conclusion regarding the follow-up distribution of gains for this demon beast riot. Rendao, Reni, and everyone, come with us to the Jade Water Sword Pavilion." "Yes." Hearing their words, Jiang Rendao, Jiang Reni, and others were obviously very happy. After all, they were going to receive their rewards, so they were naturally in a good mood. Moreover, with the Jiang family's performance in the demon beast riot this time, the rewards wouldn't be bad. But before we go, there's one more thing we need to do. As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Chengxuan took out the array disk of the stars chain array from his body. This array disk could be said to have contributed greatly to the battle in Ancient Origin City. Without it, it was impossible for them to defend Ancient Origin City, let alone wait for Gu Yuefeng to arrive. Now, Jiang Chengxuan took out this array disk because he wanted to use it as the Jiang family's mountain-protecting array. Even though Mount Mystic Tai had yet to reach level 4, combined with the level 3 spiritual vein here and the spiritual stones stored in the family base, if anything really happened, this array could still unleash its power as a level 4 array. Rumble! As Jiang Chengxuan inserted the stars chain array into Mount Mystic Tai, dazzling starlight immediately appeared in the sky above it. After Jiang Chengxuan handed the control to Liu Linglong, he and Shen Ruyan led Jiang Rendao and the others to the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. When they arrived at the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, someone led them to the main hall. Here, Jiang Chengxuan saw many familiar faces. Among them were Hua Menju, Li Fei, and the Bai family. There was also the Yu family in Qian County, as well as Huang Yao and the others from the Misty Cloud Pavilion. The group of people exchanged pleasantries. Through communication, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and others learned that many people had died in the demon beast riot. Among the deceased were the Heavenly Spring Sect's elder, Taoist Cheng Yuan, who they were familiar with, and Yang Huifei, a Violet Palace cultivator of the Yang family. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan couldn't help but sigh. This was the cruel nature of the cultivation world. No one could guarantee when death would come knocking on their door. Fortunately, through communication, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan learned that the main force of the demon beasts was not in Flatland County. So, the Shen family did not encounter much danger during this demon beast riot. At least at the Violet Palace level, no one from the Shen family died. This was undoubtedly good news for Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Just as everyone present was discussing among themselves, a pressure belonging to the golden core suddenly descended in the hall. The originally noisy hall instantly fell silent. Then everyone saw who it was. It was the current pavilion master of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, Hu Dongbai. "Greetings, Pavilion Master Hu." Immediately, everyone bowed. Hu Dongbai nodded at everyone. Then he waved his hand. In an instant, dozens and hundreds of lists landed in the hands of every cultivator present. Take a look. The list one gave you records the contribution points obtained by every family. According to the contribution points you obtained, you can exchange for the treasures listed on the list. Hearing this, everyone immediately looked down at the list in their hands. Without a doubt, among all the Violet Palace families and sects, the one with the greatest contribution was the Jiang family. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan took first and second place in the contribution rank. With this contribution, they could exchange for several core formation spiritual items. These were things that could hardly be seen in the outside world, especially re-core formation pill and core condensing pill. The former could help cultivators increase the success rate of their core formation by 35%. As for the latter, it could help cultivators increase the success rate of their core formation by 25%. If the two were combined, the success rate could reach a terrifying 50%. The reason why it was 50% instead of 60% was that Re2 pills shared some similar effects that would overlap. However, even so, if these two pills were put on the market, it would definitely cause people to fight to death over them. Even golden core cultivators would be tempted. Without mentioning anything else, just the value of these two pills alone was an astronomical figure. With Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's contribution points, even if they exchanged for these two pills at the same time, not only would they have enough, but they would also have a lot left. However, whether it was Jiang Chengxuan or Shen Ruyan, they had already made plans for their future core formation. They would not rely on pills like the core formation pill or the core condensing pill. As for Zhang Rendo and Liu Linglong, there was still a long way to go before they could form their golden core and wouldn't need any core formation spiritual items. So, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had no intention of exchanging for these two items on the list. On the contrary, some level 4 spiritual items and precious materials were more tempting, especially a few treasures that could help their intrinsic Dharma treasures transform or even advance. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not intend to let go of any of them. Among them was the two elements divine Jade that could allow Jiang Chengxuan's dual polarity divine mountain to advance to a level 4 Dharma treasure. There was also the true soul thunder crystal that could advance Shen Ruyan's falling thunder seal to a level 4 Dharma treasure. There was also the yin-yang heavenly lotus that Jiang Chengxuan needed to refine the yin-yang divine water jade. Apart from these, there was one more thing that Jiang Chengxuan needed. It was the subsequent cultivation technique of the 5 elements true technique. Unfortunately, cultivation techniques weren't kept in the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. If Jiang Chengxuan wanted to, he would probably have to think of a way to go to the Heavenly Yue sect. The subsequent content of the 5 elements true technique, suitable for golden core cultivators to cultivate, seemed to be there. However, Jiang Chengxuan did not know anyone in the Heavenly Yue sect. Strictly speaking, he was at odds with some people in the Heavenly Yue sect. Jiang Chengxuan was not confident that he could exchange for the subsequent content of the 5 elements true technique from the Heavenly Yue sect. Fortunately, he had a good relationship with Hu Dongbai, Hua Menju, and the others. When he found Hu Dongbai and told him his request, Hu Dongbai nodded readily. "Don't worry, fellow Taoist Jiang, there is no problem. In half a day to 3 days at most, one should be able to help you obtain the 5 elements true technique you want." "Oh?" Jiang Chengxuan was clearly surprised. As if sensing Jiang Chengxuan's doubts, Hu Dongbai couldn't help but smile. "Fellow Taoist Jiang, I think you have underestimated your contributions to the demon beast riot this time." Before Jiang Chengxuan could reply, Hu Dongbai continued. "To be honest, be it my Jade Water Sword Pavilion or the Heavenly Yue sect, we owe you a huge favor for your contribution. As long as your request is not too much, they will not refuse." At this point, Hu Dongbai paused for a moment before continuing. "Moreover, the 5 elements true technique you want is not their secret technique. If what you want this time is their secret technique, one can tell you 100% that it's impossible. However, if it's a common cultivation technique like the 5 elements true technique, the Heavenly Yue sect will not be stingy. Moreover, they also wanted to build a friendly relationship with you, but they haven't had the chance yet. Now that there is a chance, I believe they will gladly do you the favor." After hearing Hu Dongbai's words, Jiang Chengxuan finally realized how important what he had done in ancient Origin City was to the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, the Heavenly Yue sect, and even the entire Liang nation. It was not an exaggeration to say that protecting ancient Origin City was equivalent to protecting the Liang nation. Although he and Shen Ruyan hadn't entered the Golden Core yet, their actual combat strength had already reached the Golden Core. In other words, the Jade Water Sword Pavilion and the Heavenly Yue sect had already treated them as Golden Core cultivators who were on par with them. If not for that, no matter how great the contributions you made this time, you would not be treated equally. After figuring this out, Jiang Chengxuan immediately smiled and cupped his fists at Hu Dongbai. I see. Then one will have to trouble Pavilion Master Hu with this matter. You're welcome, fellow Taoist Jiang. Hu Dongbai shook his head with a smile. After Jiang Chengxuan confirmed that he wanted to exchange for the subsequent content of the 5 Elements True Technique, he and Shen Ruyan didn't have many contribution points left. Looking at the items on the list that could be exchanged, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan realized that the remaining items didn't seem to be of much use to them. However, it was impossible for them to give away the contribution points. Therefore, after much consideration, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan decided to choose a few important level 3 spiritual items from the exchange list, including 2 Violet Palace Jades. After everyone present exchanged for the items they needed, most of them did not choose to stay any longer and quickly left the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. On the other hand, Jiang Chengxuan and the others did not choose to leave. Instead, they temporarily stayed at the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. About 2 days later, Hu Dongbai found Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Then he handed a jade slip to Jiang Chengxuan. Fellow Taoist Jiang, take a look. This is the subsequent content of the 5 Elements True Technique that you asked for. Jiang Chengxuan took the jade slip from Hu Dongbai and used his divine sense to check it. After confirming that it was indeed the subsequent content of the 5 Elements True Technique, he nodded at Hu Dongbai and said, Pavilion Master Hu, thank you. With that, Jiang Chengxuan bowed to Hu Dongbai with a solemn expression. Seeing this, Hu Dongbai smiled and waved his hand. I've already said that you don't have to stand on ceremony, fellow Taoist Jiang. After a pause, Hu Dongbai suddenly had a serious expression on his face. Then he looked at Jiang Chengxuan and said, Fellow Taoist Jiang, apart from giving you the 5 Elements True Technique, one actually have something very important to tell you. Oh? Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan couldn't help but look surprised. They looked at Hu Dongbai. Jiang Chengxuan said, What is it? Pavilion Master Hu, feel free to say it. Hu Dongbai nodded. I'm sure the 2 of you still remember the Wolf King of Mount Fu, right? Wolf King of Mount Fu. Hearing this name, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan narrowed their eyes. That's right. Hu Dongbai nodded again. It's said that a level 5 demon emperor who has a certain blood relation with the Wolf King that day wanted to enter the Liang Nation, but it was stopped by perfected Lord Chuan Yang of the Hidden Sword Palace. There's such a thing. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were shocked. One could imagine what terrifying things would have happened if that level 5 demon emperor had really stepped into the territory of the Liang Nation. Thank goodness. Perfected Lord Chuan Yang of the Hidden Sword Palace helped them block this calamity. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had heard of this perfected lord. It was said that this person was extremely domineering and protective of his juniors. There was once a level 5 demon emperor who attacked a golden core cultivator, causing him to almost die. Although that golden core cultivator was not his disciple or a descendant of his family, he was nonetheless a junior that he thought highly of. In the end, on the 2nd day after this incident, he killed his way into the nest of the level 5 demon emperor alone, pulling out its tendons and removing its skin. If it was a battle between 2 of the same realm, perfected Lord Chuan Yang wouldn't interfere. However, if one dared to bully the weak and even touch his people, perfected Lord Chuan Yang wouldn't allow it to happen. Regardless of whether you were a level 5 demon emperor or a human perfected lord, if you dared to break the rules, he would definitely not show any mercy. At this moment, Hu Dongbai continued, But this is not really what I want to tell you this time. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were surprised again. They did not expect that this shocking piece of news was not the most important thing in this conversation. Hu Dongbai took a deep breath and looked at the 2 of them. I believe you all know about the background of the Wolf King, right? It was originally a level 4 demon king in the Zheng Nation. In theory, the Zheng Nation should be responsible for dealing with this demon beast. However, this demon beast entered the territory of our Liang Nation and almost broke through ancient Origin City, wanting to enter the northern forest. We have basically gotten to the bottom of this matter. It was the Marquis of Dingyuan in the Zheng nation that was behind it. The Marquis of Dingyuan. Hearing this name, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's eyes narrowed. Back then, Shang Yuan Sheng brought his people to rob Jiang Chengxuan and his wife. In the end, one of the Violet Palace elders of the Shang Yuan family died in their hands. Because of this, the Marquis of Dingyuan even sent a message to the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, asking them to capture Jiang Chengxuan and his wife and send them over to the Shang Yuan family. Naturally, it was rejected by the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. Now, the Marquis of Dingyuan actually did such a thing. It was simply openly violating the agreement the 5 nations of Kangnan region agreed upon to jointly resist the demon beasts. They had breached the principle. After all, if such a thing happened once, it might happen again. This time, it was fortunate that the couple had a level 4 array disc and managed to block the attack of the Wolf King. But what about the next time? Once an unexpected level 4 Demon King entered the battlefield, it would be a fatal blow to the Liang nation, the Yun nation, and the Yan nation. Therefore, such a thing was not allowed to happen a second time. They must ask for an explanation from the Zheng nation. However, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not have high hope. They knew very well what the Shang Yuan family, or rather, the Zheng and Shu nations were like. Demanding an explanation from them was probably not going to be so easy. At that moment, the couple did not hide it and directly voiced their thoughts. Hearing this, Hu Dongbai narrowed his eyes. His expression suddenly became a little cold. If that's the case, a clash with the Zheng nation will be unavoidable. Otherwise, if they really think that the Liang nation will take this lying down, there will definitely be a second time in the future. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's hearts skipped a beat. From Hu Dongbai's words, it seemed like he wanted to start a war with the other party. If that was the case, the 5 nations of the Kangnan region might be forcefully involved. At that time, it would no longer be a matter of a family or a sect. For a war of that scale to stop, either one side had to surrender or a force above the nascent soul had to interfere. So, at that thought, even Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan felt heavy. Now that the demon beast riot had just ended, a new war was about to begin among the humans. As if reading their worries, Hu Dongbai retracted the coldness in his eyes and sighed softly. To be honest, if possible, we don't want it to happen. Of course, if the Marquis of Dingyuan is willing to give in and give us an explanation, there should still be room for negotiation. However, both Hu Dongbai, Jiang Chengxuan, and Shen Ruyan knew very well how low the probability was. But you don't have to worry too much. At this moment, Hu Dongbai spoke again. According to the rules set up by the various nascent soul forces, no one is allowed to start any large-scale war in the 10 years following a demon beast riot. So, in the next 10 years, there will not be wars. After all, the rules set up by the nascent soul forces have to be followed by the golden core sects and families unless you want to die. This put Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan in a lighter mood. They believed that in 10 years, they would be able to advance to the golden core. At that time, even if a large-scale golden core battle erupted, they should be able to ensure their own safety. Then, the couple continued to chat with Hu Dongbai about some related topics. When it was about time, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan bade farewell and returned to Mount Mystic Tai with Jiang Rendao and the others. As soon as they returned to Mount Mystic Tai, Jiang Chengxuan called Jiang Rendao, Liu Linglong, Jiang Reni, Jiang Renchuan, and the other core figures of the family over. He told them what Hu Dongbai said. When the others heard that, their expressions changed drastically. Clearly, they did not expect that the final outcome of the matter regarding the Wolf King would turn into a war. Although it wouldn't take place in 10 years and that there was a small chance that a war would not take place, as experienced cultivators, they tended to think of the worst just so they could be well prepared when the worst came. Therefore, at this moment, Jiang Reni said, "Granduncle, do you have any special arrangements for us in the coming days? Or rather, what does our Jiang family need to do?" Jiang Chengxuan said slowly, "I only have one request, and that is to make the best use of the time we have to increase the overall strength of the family as soon as possible. In addition, your granddad and I plan to go out to find an opportunity to form our gold core. During this period, if anything happens, you can contact us through voice transmission." "Granduncle, are you and granddad planning to go out?" Jiang Reni and the others were shocked because this was a sensitive period. Once the news of the two of them going out was leaked, the Jiang family might be targeted. Especially the Marquis of Dingyuan and the demon beasts, they definitely wouldn't miss out on such a good opportunity. However, Jiang Chengxuan had also said that the goal of him going out was to seek opportunities to form the Golden Core. Jiang Renyi, Jiang Rendao, and the others knew that it wasn't right for them to dissuade him. Therefore, the only thing they could do was to seal this piece of news from leaking out. They couldn't let anyone else know that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were away. At the same time, they were looking forward to the day Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan returned. If the two of them could really find the opportunity to form their gold core, the Jiang family would be able to return to their former glory as a gold core, immortal family. Every time they thought of this, even the usually calm Jiang Renyi could not help but feel excited. Just like that, after staying in the family base for about a week, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan set off. About a few days later, the two of them quietly left the Liang nation and flew towards the Zheng nation without alerting anyone. Because they wanted to keep a low profile, the two of them did not plan to take the teleportation array. Moreover, they had every reason to believe that with the current relationship between the two nations, it was very likely that the teleportation array was already in a state of discontinuation. It was quite a long distance from the Liang nation to the Zheng nation. When they entered a place called the White Spirit Swamp, Shen Ruyan's expression suddenly changed. Jiang Chengxuan looked at her and asked, "Did you find anything?" "Yeah." Shen Ruyan nodded, and a smile slowly appeared on her face. "Looks like we're in luck this time. I didn't expect to find my destination as soon as I arrived in the Zheng nation." "Really?" Jiang Chengxuan was also excited. If things could go so smoothly this time, it would indeed be a good thing. This way, they could save a lot of time and energy. Then, Shen Ruyan brought Jiang Chengxuan deep into the White Spirit Swamp, a place traversed very rarely by human cultivators and demon beasts. Only a demon beast called the spirit-devouring frog would come here from time to search for some remnant spirits. Because most of the remnant spirits here were white in color, this place was called White Spirit Swamp by the Zheng nation. At this moment, the couple didn't stop and continued deeper into the swamp. After flying for more than 6 hours, Shen Ruyan stopped above an area with hundreds of remnant spirits. Looking at the hundreds of wandering remnant spirits in front of him, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but turn to Shen Ruyan. "Ruyan, is this the place we're looking for?" Shen Ruyan nodded. "That's right, it's here." As she spoke, she sat down cross-legged and slowly chanted a sutra. Slowly, as she chanted, a gentle golden light gradually spread out from her body. The golden light swept across the hundreds of remnant spirits. In the empty eyes of the remnant spirits that were floating back and forth, a trace of clarity suddenly emerged. Then they turned to look at Shen Ruyan and knelt down. Buzz. At the same time, an obscure array seemed to be activated. Just as the remnant spirits who were kneeling were gradually exorcised, an illusory door of light appeared on the ground. It gave people a feeling that it had seen the passage of time. Shen Ruyan stood up slowly. She looked in the direction of the door of light and said to Jiang Chengxuan with a smile, "Husband, let's go." With that, she took the lead and stepped into the door of light. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan immediately followed and soon disappeared behind the door of light. The moment Jiang Chengxuan was nowhere to be seen, the door of light suddenly scattered and disappeared into thin air. The surroundings returned to silence, not leaving any traces or aura. At the same time, after Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan entered the door of light, they arrived in a space that was topless and bottomless and was completely empty. There were only dense lightning elements. In addition, 3 balls of light floated in front of them. Through the ball of light, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could clearly see what was inside. They were a letter, a lightning seal that flickered with 5-colored lightning, and a bottle of blue liquid with traces of lightning. Jiang Chengxuan had never seen these 3 things in the past. He looked at Shen Ruyan inquisitively. Shen Ruyan waved her hand, guiding the 3 things into her palm. She slowly said, "This letter records the method and requirements to condense a supreme-grade golden core." "What?" Hearing Shen Ruyan's words, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrowed. He knew very well what the supreme-grade golden core Shen Ruyan mentioned meant. In the cultivation world, the golden core condensed by cultivators could be roughly divided into 9 levels. From the first to the third level, it was considered a low-grade golden core. From the fourth to the sixth level, it was considered a mid-grade golden core. From the seventh to the ninth level, it was considered a high-grade golden core. Generally speaking, someone with a low-grade golden core would never have the possibility of reaching the nascent soul. The highest achievement they could accomplish was the mid-stage of the golden core realm. Occasionally, there was hope of breaking through to the late stage of the golden core realm. Someone with a fourth-level golden core had a small chance of breaking through to the false nascent soul. A fifth-level golden core had a high chance of reaching the false nascent soul, and a small chance of eventually reaching the nascent soul. As for the sixth-level golden core, there was a small chance of reaching the nascent soul. Only someone with a true high-grade golden core was qualified to take the path towards the nascent soul. In the various nascent soul sects and families, any cultivator who condensed a high-grade golden core would be nurtured as a nascent soul seedling. However, as far as Xianxia knew, the quality of the golden cores condensed by the golden core cultivators of the 5 nations of Kangnan region was mostly low-grade. Only a very small number could condense a mid-grade golden core. High-grade golden cores were even rarer. As for the supreme-grade golden core mentioned in the letter, it was even more unheard of. Killing a cultivator of the Xianxia family. According to Xianxia's understanding, the so-called supreme-grade golden core was already in existence that exceeded the scope of normal potential. It could not be measured in the traditional sense. And now, the letter in Shen Ruyan's hand actually recorded the method to obtain it. Although with a method, they might not necessarily be able to condense a supreme-grade golden core, at least it would greatly increase the chance of success. Taking a step back, even if they could not condense a supreme golden core, most cultivators were already satisfied with condensing a high-grade golden core or even a mid-grade golden core. It could be imagined that if the contents of this letter were to spread, it would definitely cause an uproar in the entire Kangnan region, perhaps the entire 9 essences immortal cultivation world. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, he saw Shen Ruyan pointing at the seal with 5-colored lightning. As for this, it's the true lightning divine seal. It's very useful to me for condensing a supreme-grade golden core in the future. It can also help me comprehend lightning divine powers and increase the power of lightning divine powers. As for the last, Shen Ruyan picked up the bottle of blue liquid that was flickering with lightning and said to Xianxia, "This thing is called the Orchid Thunder liquid. It's an excellent material to refine a level 4 lightning element Dharma treasure." Without a doubt, the 3 items in front of them were all prepared for condensing the golden core, or after they condensed the golden core. Including the environment here, it should be a special space created for Shen Ruyan to refine the true lightning divine seal. Such an extraordinary arrangement was definitely not something a nascent soul cultivator could do. Now, Xianxia had some guesses about the identity of his Tao companion in her previous life. However, since Shen Ruyan didn't take the initiative to tell him, he would not probe. Anyway, when the time was right, Shen Ruyan would tell him. Just as Xianxia thought, Shen Ruyan planned to use the space here to try to refine the true lightning divine seal first. Xianxia, naturally, had no objections to this. He was also planning to take this opportunity to read the contents of the letter. Crackle! Streaks of lightning appeared around Shen Ruyan. As time passed, a 5-colored lightning mark between Shen Ruyan's eyebrows became especially obvious. Even the aura on her body became denser and more vast. Vaguely, she felt that she seemed to have touched that threshold. As long as she took another step forward, she could immediately attempt to condense a golden core. Xianxia looked at her with concerns. Shen Ruyan shook her head at him, indicating that she was fine. Just like that, a few days later, Shen Ruyan suddenly opened her eyes. The 5-colored lightning mark between her eyebrows slowly disappeared at this moment. She turned to look at Xianxia and smiled. "Husband, I've already completely refined the true lightning divine seal." "Is that so?" Xianxia immediately congratulated with a smile. "Then congratulations." As soon as he finished speaking, the two of them suddenly felt the space tremble. This reminded them of their past experiences. Could it be that this space was going to collapse on its own again? As this thought flashed across his mind, he heard Shen Ruyan say, "Husband, this place is no longer useful to me. Let's go out." With that, Shen Ruyan made a few hand seals. Buzz. In an instant, a passageway to the outside world appeared out of thin air in front of the two of them. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not hesitate and quickly entered the passageway. After a moment of dizziness, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan appeared in a lush forest. The spiritual qi here was quite dense. The two of them identified the surroundings and realized that they were still in Zheng country. They didn't plan to stay in the Zheng nation any longer. After they found their bearings, they flew straight to the Liang nation. However, as soon as the two of them arrived at the border of the Zheng nation, they suddenly stopped and looked at a big tree below. To be precise, they were looking at the man beside the big tree. That man was covered in blood and was no longer breathing. However, in his arms was a baby girl who was not even a month old. She was looking around curiously with her big black eyes. Clearly, she did not understand what was going on around her. She knew nothing about the death of the man either. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan flew down. The couple looked at each other. Jiang Chengxuan said, "A heavenly spiritual root." Although it was a question, his tone was extremely certain. "That's right, it's indeed a heavenly spiritual root." Shen Ruyan gave an affirmative answer. The couple was a little surprised. They did not expect to be lucky enough to meet an infant with heavenly spiritual root on the way back. Every cultivator knew what having a heavenly spiritual root meant. This was a true cultivation genius. At least before the golden core realm, she would not hit any bottlenecks. Killing a cultivator of the Shangyuan family, too. It was not too difficult for cultivators with a heavenly spiritual root to form a golden core either. However, looking at the situation, it was obvious that the baby girl was carrying a lot of karma. Shen Ruyan tried to carry the baby girl. The baby girl immediately giggled happily. At this moment, the couple noticed a letter on the baby girl. After thinking for a moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan finally decided to open the letter. It was a letter of entrustment, hoping that the Xiao family in the southeast could take in this baby girl. It said that the Xiao family could nurture the baby girl as one of their own, and they didn't have to tell the baby girl her true identity in the future. It could be seen that the only wish of the person who wrote this letter was for the baby girl to live safely. Other than that, there was nothing else he wanted. He was also confident that, with the baby girl's aptitude, the Xiao family would definitely be willing to take her in. Because having a heavenly spiritual root meant having a future golden core. Even if the Xiao family might have to take a lot of risks, he believed that the Xiao family would not refuse. Husband. After the couple finished reading the letter, Shen Ruyan immediately turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan with complicated feelings. Jiang Chengxuan could more or less guess what his Dao companion was thinking. Just as he was about to answer, a large group of people suddenly appeared in their divine senses. When they sensed those people, especially the clothes they were wearing, their eyes narrowed. This was because they had already recognized that these people were all from the Shangyuan family. Could it be that something existed between this baby girl's family and the Shangyuan family? Just as these thoughts flashed across their minds, the group of people in their divine senses had already arrived in front of them. The person in the lead was a middle-aged cultivator at the 7th level of the Violet Palace. Seeing Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, he was stunned. But when he saw the baby girl in Shen Ruyan's arms, he was pleasantly surprised. "Haha, we finally found her. I've already said that it's impossible for your Song family to protect her." He seemed to treat Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan as members of the Song family. He continued, "I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. The Xiao family in the southeast that you're counting on has been flattened by our Shangyuan family a few days ago. Other than them, the Chen family, the Zhao family, and the Cayenne family, who are old friends with the Song family, were all gone. How is that? Do the two of you still want to continue resisting?" Hearing that, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan exchanged a glance. They really did not expect that the Xiao family in the southeast mentioned in the letter had already been wiped out. From the looks of it, what the Shangyuan family wanted was the baby girl. Surely, heavenly spiritual root aptitude was 1 in a million. In the cultivation world, there was no lack of people who would fight a bloody war over a talented disciple. However, wasn't it a little too much for the Shangyuan family to destroy so many families for the sake of a baby girl? It had to be known that when a cultivator reached a certain level of cultivation, they would be able to understand their background. Even if the Xianxia family wanted someone with heavenly spiritual root aptitude, they wouldn't need to go so far as to wipe out an entire family, right? Were they not afraid that when the baby girl grew up, she would turn against them? Unless they did not want this baby girl for the sake of nurturing her, but for other purposes. At the thought of this, the couple couldn't help but emanate a murderous aura. No matter what their true motive was for wanting this baby girl, since the couple was already involved, they definitely wouldn't stand by and do nothing, let alone let this group of people from the Xianxia family continue to live. What? Do you want to die? Seeing that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not back down, the middle-aged cultivator's face immediately turned cold. There was an undisguised killing intent in his eyes. Since you don't know what's good for you, die. Kill them all. As soon as he finished speaking, the middle-aged cultivator was the first to attack. He raised his hand and took out a huge axe. The surface of the huge axe was covered with many strange runes. As soon as it appeared, the gravity around Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan increased by many times. If it were an ordinary violet palace cultivator, they might really be restrained by this sudden gravity. However, this level of gravity was nothing to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Jiang Chengxuan casually took out the golden void sword. There was a clang. The gravity around him and Shen Ruyan instantly disappeared. Then dazzling sparks exploded on the huge axe that was slashing down towards them. Clang! The axe was split into two and fell to the ground. The middle-aged cultivator in the lead and his companions were shocked. How is that possible? Before they could react, Jiang Chengxuan's golden void sword had already swept past the head of the middle-aged cultivator in the lead. He stared with Jiang Chengxuan with his eyes wide open, but before he could say a word, his body fell to the ground with a thud. Seeing this, the others present were all terrified. They did not expect the person in front of them to have such terrifying strength to take down a late-stage Violet Palace cultivator in one move. What did this mean? It meant that the other party's strength had already surpassed the Violet Palace. When did the Song family have such a terrifying figure? That's not right. He can't possibly be from the Song family. The remaining people seemed to have realized this, and their pupils constricted. Just now, they were so focused on the baby girl that they subconsciously ignored the two of them. Now that they realized they weren't to be trifled with, it was too late. It was impossible for these people to withstand Jiang Chengxuan's golden void sword. Even escaping became an extravagant hope. However, Jiang Chengxuan was not in a hurry to kill all of them. Instead, he interrogated some of them. He wanted to find out what was going on between the Xianxia family and the Song family, and why they wanted that baby girl. When only Jiang Chengxuan, his wife, and the baby girl were left, Jiang Chengxuan had already obtained all the information he wanted to know. It turned out that the true reason why the Xianxia family wanted this baby girl was to let a late-stage golden core old ancestor in their family possess her. It was said that that ancestor was already more than 790 years old and could only live for 1 to 2 more years. Coincidentally, their spy in the Song family found out that a baby girl with a heavenly spiritual root had appeared. Moreover, the baby girl's constitution seemed to be very compatible with the constitution of the late-stage golden core ancestor of the Xianxia family, perfectly meeting the requirement for possession. Hence, they had designs on the baby girl. It was obvious that if it wasn't for the fact that he and Shen Ruyan happened to pass by, the late-stage golden core cultivator from the Xianxia family might really be able to use this baby girl's body to live another life. Without this baby girl as a target to possess, with the remaining lifespan of that ancestor, it would probably be very difficult for him to find a suitable target to possess. At that time, he would either die or find someone random to possess. However, in that case, without a perfectly compatible constitution, it would be impossible for him to recover to the cultivation level of his previous life. It would also be difficult for him to condense a golden core. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan didn't stay any longer. After burying the man who carried the baby girl all the way here, they returned to the Liang nation at full speed with the baby girl. Several hours later, 7 abnormally powerful streaks of light descended on the place Jiang Chengxuan left. All of them were wearing the unique clothes of the Xianxia family. The person in the lead was a cultivator who had reached the golden core. As he casually made a hand seal, a jade green light appeared in his eyes. After a while, The green light in this person's eyes disappeared, and he looked at everyone with an extremely ugly expression. We're still a step too late. The girl from the Song family has already been snatched away. These words made everyone's heart skip a beat. No one knew better than them how important that baby girl from the Song family was to the Xianxia family. For her, the Xianxia family didn't hesitate to wipe out the Song family, as well as 4 other Violet Palace families. In the end, all their efforts were in vain. How could they accept this? A young man at the 9th level of the Violet Palace said coldly, "7th granduncle, is there any way to track down the person who snatched the baby girl?" Hearing his words, the others immediately turned to look at the Golden Core Cultivator. The Golden Core Cultivator pondered for a moment before taking out a brown talisman. After activating it, smoke suddenly rose from the brown talisman and pointed in a direction. Seeing this, the Golden Core Cultivator said in a low voice, "This is the Song family's bloodline tracking talisman. We found it in the Song family's treasure vault back then. There's only one left now. We have to catch up to the other party before this talisman loses its effect. Otherwise, once they hide the baby girl, it'll be even harder for us to find her." As he spoke, the Golden Core Cultivator was already the first to chase in the direction indicated by the bloodline tracking talisman. Seeing this, the others followed suit without hesitation. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan, who was returning with Shen Ruyan, suddenly sensed something and his eyes narrowed. Sensing him slow down a little, Shen Ruyan turned to look at him and asked, "Husband, did something happen?" Jiang Chengxuan did not answer immediately. Instead, he used the heavenly calculation technique and began to calculate. After a while, he looked at Shen Ruyan and said, "This child seems to be being tracked by a bloodline tracking technique. At this rate, it won't be long before they catch up to us." Bloodline tracking technique. Shen Ruyan's beautiful eyes narrowed. Right now, they were not far from the Zheng nation. Once they really caught up, a conflict was inevitable. Moreover, it was very likely that there might be a Golden Core Cultivator among the pursuers. With her and Jiang Chengxuan's strength, they were not particularly afraid of a Golden Core Cultivator. However, once a conflict broke out, they would have to reveal all their strength. At that time, given how much the Xianxia family valued the baby girl, they might send more Golden Core Cultivators over. It was hard to say what would happen then. So, if possible, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan would try their best to avoid being caught up. "Husband, do you have any way to block this bloodline tracking technique?" Shen Ruyan asked. Jiang Chengxuan nodded. If it was in the past, one wouldn't know what to do. Now, with the 2nd level of the heavenly calculation technique, it shouldn't be a problem for me to block it and lead them astray. As he spoke, Jiang Chengxuan reached out and tapped the baby girl in Shen Ruyan's arms. Buzz! In an instant, a drop of blood suddenly flew out of the baby girl. Jiang Chengxuan grabbed the blood bead and took out some materials from his body. Soon, white flames mixed with red rose. Under Jiang Chengxuan's control, the materials quickly transformed into the appearance of a baby in the flames. When Jiang Chengxuan put away the flames, he had already injected the drop of blood into the baby puppet he had refined. Then he made a hand seal. The tracking talisman that was originally on the baby girl was already transferred to the baby puppet by Jiang Chengxuan. In the end, Jiang Chengxuan managed to catch a level 2 tiger-type demon beast and threw the baby puppet into its stomach. He raised his hand and threw something into the air. The tiger-type demon beast quickly fled in the opposite direction. After doing all these, Jiang Chengxuan turned to look at Shen Ruyan with a smile. "Let's go. With that demon beast buying time for us, we should be able to reach home safely." Several hours later, the cultivators of the Xianxia family looked at the level 2 demon beast that was trembling in front of them with a dumbfounded look. What is going on? They were clearly tracking the baby girl with the heavenly spiritual root and the people who took her away. Why did the bloodline tracking talisman take them to find this level 2 demon beast? Damn it! The Golden Core Cultivator in the lead had a gloomy expression. Realizing that he had been fooled, he was filled with anger. As the core Golden Core Elder of the Xianxia family, when had he ever been fooled like this? In a fit of anger, the Golden Core Cultivator raised his hand and slapped the level 2 demon beast, turning it into a bloody mist. It was only at this moment that the Golden Core Cultivator and everyone present realized in shock that there was a puppet in the shape of a baby in the bloody mist. It was flickering with a faint light. At this moment, it dawned on everyone that the bloodline tracking talisman was not taking them to find the level 2 demon beast, but the puppet that was stained with the blood of the baby girl. Boom! Before the golden core cultivator in the lead could do anything, the puppet suddenly burned up and turned into dust that scattered. The golden core cultivator and the young man at the 9th level of the Violet Palace had a dark expression. The puppet must have been set up in such a way that once the level 2 demon beast died, it would self-ignite. In this way, it would be impossible for them to continue tracking the baby girl through this puppet. 7th Granduncle, what should we do now? The young man couldn't help but turn to look at Xianxia Audiobook, the golden core cultivator. Xianxia Audiobook said in a gloomy tone, "Continue searching. At the same time, inform the family to send more people over. One don't believe that they can escape from us." Yes. Xianxia Audiobook, the young man at the 9th level of the Violet Palace, and the others immediately bowed to accept the order. However, they knew very well that given the current situation, it would be unlikely to find anything. That was the truth. For more than 10 days, Xianxia Audiobook, Xianxia Audiobook, and the others found nothing. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had already returned to the Jiang family with the baby girl. Seeing Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan return, the family head, Jiang Rendao, Liu Linglong, and the others were overjoyed. They came to Xunaming Peak, where the two of them were. However, when they saw the baby girl the two of them were carrying, they could not help but look extremely stunned. Jiang Rendao asked, "Granduncle, is this child yours?" This was also what the others wanted to ask. Jiang Chengxuan shook his head and said angrily, "What are you thinking? This is a child we picked up on the way back." "A child you picked up?" Everyone was even more stunned. Jiang Chengxuan continued, "That's right. As for why we picked her up, you can come and see it yourself." "What?" Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, everyone had a look of puzzlement on their faces. As a Violet Palace cultivator, Jiang Rendao and Liu Linglong could roughly tell a person's aptitude without external help. Just now, they did not pay attention to this aspect at all. Now that they heard what Jiang Chengxuan said, they immediately realized that the child in Shen Ruyan's arms seemed to be different. The two of them went forward and gently placed their hands on the baby girl. The baby girl giggled. The result pleasantly surprised the two of them. Zhang Reni asked impatiently, "Rendao Elder Liu, what did you find?" "Brother, it's a heavenly spiritual root. This child has an earth element heavenly spiritual root." Zhang Rendao finally couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Liu Linglong nodded repeatedly. "It's indeed an earth element heavenly spiritual root. One didn't expect this child to have such aptitude." "What heavenly spiritual root?" Hearing their answers, Jiang Reni was stunned for a moment before he was overcome with joy. As long as this baby girl could cultivate well and grow up smoothly, reaching Golden Core Realm was nothing to her. No wonder his granduncle brought her back. By the way, granduncle. At this moment, Jiang Reni suddenly thought of something and asked, "I wonder where this girl came from. Is she born to a mortal family or something else?" About this, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan didn't hide anything. In the end, Jiang Chengxuan added, "Before she reaches the foundation establishment, don't tell her about her background." Hearing this, Jiang Reni and the others nodded in understanding. In fact, they did not expect this baby girl to have such a background. It was indeed not appropriate to let her know too early. "By the way, Brother Jiang, did you name her?" At this moment, Liu Linglong suddenly asked this question. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other. Then Shen Ruyan said, "Not yet. Linglong, do you have any good names?" Liu Linglong thought for a moment and said, "Since this child will be raised in the Jiang family, her surname should be Jiang. Why don't we call her Anren?" "Jiang Anren." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan thought a moment. Then Shen Ruyan nodded with a smile, "I think that's a good name. Husband, in the future, let's call her Jiang Anren." "Sure." Jiang Chengxuan smiled and nodded. To him, the child's name was not important. The only thing that required some effort was to teach this child. He looked at Liu Linglong and the others. "Next, Ruyan and I need to go into seclusion to prepare to break through to the Golden Core. During this period, we might not have time to take care of this child. Linglong, Rendao, and Reni, if you have time, take care of her." After we come out of seclusion, we will personally teach her." Hearing this, Jiang Reni, Jiang Rendo, and Liu Linglong nodded readily. "Granduncle, grandaunt, don't worry. We'll definitely take good care of this child." "Good." As soon as they finished speaking, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan suddenly sensed something. Then a look of joy appeared on their faces. They suddenly stood up and told Jiang Reni and the others to come with them. Then they quickly rushed towards the back of the mountain. Jiang Reni and the others were still confused. However, when they followed Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan to the back of the mountain, they were shocked. In front of everyone, the water apricot tree, which was wrapped in purple light, suddenly emitted a surging aura. Then its branches began to expand. Together with the branches, leaves and petals also expanded by a full circle. Most importantly, its grade had reached level 4. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At the same time, perhaps because it was stimulated by the level up of the water apricot tree, the level 3 spiritual vein on Mount Mystic Tai suddenly spewed out a large amount of spiritual qi. Everyone present could clearly sense that the concentration of spiritual qi in the surroundings had increased by a few dozen%. Could it be that our spiritual vein is about to advance too? Jiang Rendo couldn't help but ask in surprise. Hearing that, Jiang Reni, Liu Linglong, and the others immediately looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan expectantly. The couple was also surprised. At this moment, the spiritual vein on Mount Mystic Tai was indeed beginning to advance to level 4 as a response to the water apricot tree. At this rate, it would probably not be long before the spiritual vein on Mount Mystic Tai really became a level 4 spiritual vein. It seemed that the response of the spiritual vein to the water apricot tree was better than they had expected. Come to think of it, it made sense. After all, the spiritual cloud purple qi he nourished the tree with back then was not an ordinary item. Not only could it increase the grade of the spiritual root, but it could also unlock the potential of the spiritual root. From the looks of it, it was very likely that given time, the water apricot tree would break through to level 5. At that time, it would truly be something. In addition, every 100 years, the water apricot tree could produce 12 fruits. After a golden core cultivator consumed it, they could increase their dharmic power by 60 years. At the same time, it was also useful for cultivators who specialized in water element cultivation techniques and had a water element spiritual root. Moreover, it was quite useful for comprehending water-type spells and divine powers. It was a rare treasure. Jiang Chengxuan told everyone present about this, and they were all pleasantly surprised. After a while, Jiang Reni said, "Granduncle, I suggest that it's best to keep the water apricot tree a tree. After all, with our family's current foundation, once it's known to the outside world, I'm afraid it will attract a lot of trouble." Indeed, even the Jade Water Sword Pavilion and the Heavenly Yue sect would be tempted by such a precious level 4 spiritual root. Although the relationship between the two of them seemed to be good, when interests were involved, no one could say for sure what would happen. After all, the human heart was the most fragile thing. Boom! While they were talking about this, the ground under their feet suddenly shook. Immediately after, everyone could clearly feel the concentration of spiritual qi around them soared. It was to the point that as long as one took a breath, the dharmic power in their body would increase slightly. Especially Jiang Reni, who had yet to break through to the Violet Palace. The impact of the increase in the surrounding spiritual qi on him was even stronger. He had the feeling that he was about to lose control. "Reni, the time has come for you to advance to the Violet Palace. Why don't you enter seclusion here and try to break through?" Jiang Chengxuan suddenly spoke in a low voice. Then he took out a Violet Palace Jade and handed it to Jiang Reni. "With this environment and the Violet Palace Jade, your chances of advancing to the Violet Palace will be as high as 70%. Once you miss this opportunity, you might never have such an opportunity in the future." Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Jiang Reni nodded with determination. As he took the Violet Palace Jade, he said solemnly, "Yes, Granduncle, I understand." With that, he held the Violet Palace Jade in one hand and immediately sat down cross-legged. Seeing that, Jiang Chengxuan nodded and turned to look at Shen Ruyan. "Wife, there has been a lot of commotion here just now. You're more proficient in arrays than me. Next, we still need you to use the Star's Chain array to cover up the phenomenon on Mount Mystic Tai. In addition, the distribution of the spiritual qi here also needs to be adjusted and channeled. All right, no problem, leave this matter to me. Shen Ruyan nodded. Then Jiang Chengxuan instructed Jiang Rendao, Liu Linglong, and the others something else. Just like that, after a while, with Shen Ruyan's help, the abnormal phenomenon on Mount Mystic Tai gradually calmed down. At the end, Jiang Chengxuan said, "All right, now, Ruyan and One are going to go into seclusion to try to condense the golden core. While Reni is trying to break through to the Violet Palace, you have to keep watch and make sure he is not disturbed. If there is nothing very important, remember not to disturb us." Jiang Rendao and Liu Linglong clearly knew very well what their seclusion meant to the Jiang family. When they heard this, they nodded solemnly. Jiang Rendao said, "Don't worry, with us around, there will definitely be no problem. In advance, I wish Granduncle and Grandaunt success in forming the golden core." At the side, Liu Linglong also said, "One also wish Brother Jiang and Sister Shen success in forming the golden core." "Thank you for your blessings." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan nodded at them. When Shen Ruyan handed the baby girl, Jiang Anren, to the two of them, the couple left without hesitation and returned to Xunaming Peak. After returning to Xunaming Peak, Jiang Chengxuan took out a tribulation avoidance pearl and handed it to Shen Ruyan. "Madam, take this tribulation avoidance pearl. When you undergo the tribulation, if anything happens, it might be able to help you." Tribulation avoidance pearl. Seeing what Jiang Chengxuan handed over, Shen Ruyan was shocked. Especially when she held the tribulation avoidance pearl in her hand, she immediately felt an unfathomable aura emanating from it. This made her realize that this pearl was a treasure for transcending the heavenly tribulation. She quickly handed the pearl back to Jiang Chengxuan. "Husband, this pearl is precious. Moreover, I have a feeling that your heavenly tribulation this time will probably be extraordinary. You need this treasure more than me." However, Jiang Chengxuan smiled and waved his hand. "Wife, feel free to take this tribulation avoidance pearl. I still have one on me." As he spoke, he took out another tribulation avoidance pearl from his body to show it to Shen Ruyan. Seeing this, Shen Ruyan stopped refusing. Since Jiang Chengxuan still had another one, she naturally wouldn't stand on ceremony with him. After a while, the couple went to their cave abodes. This time, the two of them had only one goal, which was to form the golden core. To form the golden core was also to solidify one's liquid dharmic power. During this process, the body and soul would undergo a qualitative transformation. It was a true leap in lifespan. Once they succeeded, they would be able to live for 800 years. Unfortunately, since ancient times, countless cultivators had fallen at this juncture. Most of them either failed while solidifying their dharmic power or transforming their bodies and souls. After all, the transformation on the very essence of life was not an ordinary thing. From the flesh to the bones, from the bones to the organs, and then from the organs to the soul, one would go through a process of breaking and reconstructing. If one did not have great willpower and ability, it was impossible for them to succeed. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan was in his cave abode with a core formation spiritual item in front of him. It was the Sky Brilliance Dew that the system had rewarded him with. He recalled everything he had read on Shen Ruyan's letter about forming the golden core. Then he tried to adjust his condition to the peak. Only then did Jiang Chengxuan begin to circulate the 5 elements true technique he cultivated. Over and over, again and again. Gradually, the dharmic power in Jiang Chengxuan's body began to surge. Soon, the dharmic power of 5 different attributes began to repel, resist, and crush each other. At this moment, the benefit of having cultivated a body-tempering technique manifested. Having dharmic power of 5 different attributes wreaking havoc in the body, if it were an ordinary cultivator, they would probably die at this stage. However, to Jiang Chengxuan, other than feeling that the qi in his body was a little uncoordinated and a little heavy, it did not affect him much. However, he also knew that this was only the beginning. If he allowed this to continue and did not do anything, even with his foundation, he would inevitably collapse at some point. Therefore, in the next moment, Jiang Chengxuan began to control the dharmic power in his body, guiding them to circulate in a harmonious cycle. Wood gave birth to fire, fire to earth, earth to metal, metal to water, and water to wood. He used the principle of the 5 elements to stop them from repelling each other. Gradually, slowly, in Jiang Chengxuan's body, crystals of green, red, yellow, white, and black appeared. That was the first step of dharmic power solidification. Next, Yang Chengxuan needed to fuse and squeeze the small crystal into the shape of a golden pill. This process was not something that could be completed in a short period of time. It required enough patience and time. 2 years later, at this moment, in the direction of the back mountain of Mount Mystic Tai, a powerful spiritual pressure suddenly descended. Zhang Rendao and Liu Linglong, who were nearby, revealed happy expressions at the same time. They all looked in the direction of the powerful spiritual pressure. Zhang Reni, who was originally sitting cross-legged as he tried to break through to the Violet Palace, had already stood up from his meditative state. At this moment, his face was also filled with joy. After 2 years, he finally lived up to everyone's expectations and transformed the true essence in his body into dharmic power, officially stepping into the Violet Palace. Brother, congratulations. At this moment, Jiang Rendo and Liu Linglong had already arrived beside him. The two of them immediately congratulated Jiang Reni on successfully advancing to the Violet Palace. Jiang Reni was obviously in a good mood. After exchanging pleasantries with the two of them, he looked in the direction of Xunaming Peak and asked, "Elder Liu, what's the situation with granduncle and grandaunt? Are they still in seclusion?" "Yes, they haven't come out of seclusion yet." Zhang Rendo and Liu Linglong nodded. However, at this moment, an extremely terrifying spiritual pressure suddenly came from the sky above Shen Ruyan's cave abode. This spiritual pressure far exceeded the spiritual pressure when Jiang Reni advanced to the Violet Palace. Feeling this pressure, the three of them had the urge to kneel down and kowtow to it. "This is..." The three of them immediately looked at each other and revealed a trace of shock and indescribable surprise in their eyes. Is Grandaunt about to succeed in condensing the golden core? Zhang Rendo could not help but ask. Buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, more than half of the spiritual qi on Mount Mystic Tai began to rush towards Shen Ruyan's cave abode. However, what was strange was that the spiritual qi around the cave abode where Jiang Chengxuan was not affected at all. This was a backup plan that the two of them had set up before they went into seclusion. This way, if the two of them broke through to the golden core at the same time, they could still ensure that they had enough spiritual qi and wouldn't affect each other. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, the spiritual qi fluctuation above Shen Ruyan's cave abode became more and more intense. Almost all the cultivators of the Jiang family on Mount Mystic Tai sensed the change on Xunaming Peak in the distance. Zhang Yuncheng, who had just returned from a mission, immediately revealed a shocked expression. He looked at Jiang Yunru and the other members of the same generation who were walking over and subconsciously blurted out, "Is ancestor about to advance to the golden core?" Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, another extremely terrifying pressure descended on Xunaming Peak. Zhang Reni said in an excited voice, "Granduncle is actually about to break through too." At the same time, in Jiang Chengxuan's cave abode, after more than 2 years of effort, Jiang Chengxuan finally solidified all the dharmic power in his body and condensed a golden and round core in his dantian. On the surface of the golden core, there were 9 clear Dao patterns. This was the symbol of a 9th-level golden core. However, Jiang Chengxuan was obviously not satisfied. He waved his hand. The bottle containing the Sky Brilliance dew in front of him opened automatically. Then he opened his mouth and sucked. A liquid that was jade-colored and flickered with light was sucked into his mouth. As soon as the dew entered Jiang Chengxuan's body, a surging and vast power instantly fused into his golden core. Then Jiang Chengxuan's golden core suddenly erupted with a dazzling light. He seemed to have heard a cracking sound beside his ear, as if some shackle had been broken, making his body and soul, which had already transformed, become slightly stronger. On the surface of the golden core, a new Dao pattern had appeared. It was the 10th Dao pattern. As soon as this Dao pattern appeared, Jiang Chengxuan felt like he was surrounded by immortal music. Unknowingly, he fell into a state of enlightenment. Colors of red, yellow, blue, green, and gold kept flashing past his eyes. It made him feel like he had grasped something, but at the same time, he did not know what it was. That feeling was very strange. However, Jiang Chengxuan vaguely sensed that, with his current state of comprehension, it was not enough for him to grasp something heaven-defying. Therefore, in the next moment, he took out a ball of hazy purple qi. It was the 9 revolutions purple qi. As soon as the 9 revolutions purple qi appeared, it immediately passed through Jiang Chengxuan's palm and fused into his body. It quickly entered his dantian and enveloped the golden core inside. In an instant, the immortal music that was even clearer than before lingered in his ears. As the music sounded, his vague comprehension became clearer and clearer. Crack! Then the sound of shackles being broken was heard again. If he looked into his body at this moment, he would discover that the golden core with 10 Tao patterns in his dantian was already covered in cracks. To ordinary cultivators, this was a sign of failure. Once the golden core shattered, even if they did not die, their vitality would be severely injured and their lifespan would be greatly reduced. They might even die on the spot. But now it happened to Jiang Chengxuan. As more and more cracks appeared on the surface of the golden core, not only did Jiang Chengxuan's aura not show any signs of becoming unstable or weakening, but it also showed signs of becoming stronger and stronger. It could be clearly seen that dense purple qi was gushing out of those cracks. The entire golden core was actually about to transform into a purple golden core. Crack! With the last crack, the surface of the golden core in Jiang Chengxuan's body completely shattered, and what appeared was a purple golden core the size of a soybean. Buzz! In an instant, an extremely terrifying aura suddenly surged out of the purple golden core. At the same time, the many spiritual stones Jiang Chengxuan had placed in the cave abode beforehand exploded at this moment. Together with the spiritual qi in the level 4 spiritual vein, it all surged towards the purple golden core in his body. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As more and more spiritual qi surged into Jiang Chengxuan's body, the soybean-sized golden core also began to spin rapidly. With every cycle, its size would increase by a notch. After 9 cycles, the size of the purple golden core had already returned to normal size. The only difference was that it was purple in color. On its surface were 11 Tao patterns that flickered with a strange light. This was a divine-grade golden core, also known as the Zenith Heaven Golden Core, that had surpassed the Supreme Grade. If a Supreme-grade golden core exceeded the understanding of normal cultivators and had unlimited possibilities or even the potential to become an immortal, then Jiang Chengxuan's divine-grade golden core could be said to have the potential to become an immortal zenith. There was an essential difference between the two, and they couldn't be compared at all. Buzz! It was also at the moment when his divine-grade golden core was truly formed that Jiang Chengxuan finally grasped the comprehension he wanted to grasp. Behind him, green, red, yellow, white, and black light suddenly rose. Then the 5-colored light fused into one and gently swept across the void in front of it. Buzz! In an instant, everything in the surrounding area that was swept by the 5-colored light disappeared like they had never existed. And this was the intrinsic divine power he finally comprehended after obtaining the divine-grade golden core. It was called the 5-colored divine light. Golden Core 2. Everything in the scope of 5 elements, be it dharma treasures, spells, divine powers, the 5-colored divine light could reduce 30% of their power. This divine power could not be dodged, offset, or blocked. Unless it was a dharma treasure, divine power, or divine power that did not belong to the 5 elements. However, in this world, how many things were outside the 5 elements? And this was only the most basic stage of the 5-colored divine light. As Jiang Chengxuan's cultivation deepened, and his comprehension of this divine power improved, its power would also increase. When Jiang Chengxuan obtained the divine-grade golden core and comprehended the divine power, Shen Ruyan, who was in another cave abode, also comprehended her divine power, the 5 elements divine lightning. Its power was definitely second to none among the intrinsic divine powers of all golden core cultivators. Coupled with her true lightning divine seal, its power would increase by another 30%. The only difference from Jiang Chengxuan was that the 11th Tao patterns had yet to appear on her golden core. Even so, Shen Ruyan's golden core was at the peak of the Supreme Grade, only a step away from reaching the Divine Grade. At this moment, she had already arrived outside her cave abode. Outside, a large dark cloud rolled over, covering the originally clear sky, bringing along with it an extremely oppressive aura. Vaguely, lightning could be seen dancing and flickering amidst the dark cloud. In the distance, Jiang Renyi, Jiang Rendo, Liu Lingguang, and the other cultivators of the Jiang family looked at the large dark cloud in the sky in shock. The same thought popped up in their minds at the same time. Is that the legendary tribulation cloud? As everyone knew, after a cultivator successfully advanced to the golden core realm, they did not need to consolidate their realm like in the previous few realms. To them, other than the various tribulations they had to face when condensing their golden core, there was an even more dangerous tribulation, the heavenly tribulation. Only by transcending the heavenly tribulation could one truly pass all the tests. By the same token, if they failed to transcend the heavenly tribulation, all their efforts and sacrifices would be in vain. The heavenly tribulation was merciless and wouldn't give you a second chance. Once failed, you'd be reduced to ashes, and all traces of you would be completely erased from this world. Rumble! At this moment, a loud thunder suddenly came from the clouds in the sky. Shenruyan, who was above her cave abode, narrowed her eyes and flew out of Mount Mystic Tai. She did not plan to transcend the tribulation on Mount Mystic Tai. It had to be noted that the heavenly tribulation would not care about the surrounding environment. If anything happened during this period of time, not to mention Xunaming Peak, even the entire Mount Mystic Tai might be reduced to ruins. Seeing that Shenruyan was flying out of Mount Mystic Tai, Jiang Reni and the others looked at each other. Without saying a word, they immediately informed their disciples to follow Shenruyan. Firstly, they wanted to witness it, and secondly, they wanted to prevent Shenruyan from being disturbed by others. When Shenruyan stopped 1,000 miles away from Mount Mystic Tai, Jiang Reni, Jiang Rendo, and the others stopped about 100 miles away from her and looked in Shenruyan's direction. The chance to witness the tribulation transcendence up close was very rare. Rumble! Suddenly, a dazzling bolt of lightning struck down from the tribulation cloud. It went straight for Shenruyan. This was the first tribulation lightning of the golden core, heavenly tribulation. Just this tribulation lightning alone made Jiang Reni, Jiang Rendo, and the others who were watching from afar feel great fear. They were 100% sure that if they were the target of the tribulation lightning, they would definitely not be able to survive it. This made them worried. One had to know that it was only the first tribulation lightning, but its power had surpassed their previous imagination. On the other hand, Shenruyan did not have much of a reaction. She casually cast a spell, causing an explosion to sound in the sky. The tribulation lightning that Jiang Reni, Jiang Rendo, and the others felt was incomparably terrifying was actually easily offset. Then there was a second and a third. Shenruyan blocked them effortlessly. Only when the fourth bolt of lightning struck did Shenruyan finally become serious. She raised her hand and made a grabbing motion. There was a clang. In the void, she suddenly pulled out a long saber that was covered in purple lightning. At the edge of it, there were raging flames. It was her divine power, the purple lightning flame saber. There was a rumble. When the purple lightning flame saber collided with the fourth tribulation lightning, an even more violent explosion erupted in the sky. The shockwave it brought about spread to a radius of more than 20 miles. Seeing this scene, Jiang Reni, Jiang Rendo, and the others were all scared out of their wits. Should a peak violet palace or false core cultivator face the tribulation lightning, they would probably be blasted to ashes on the spot. But in the end, their grandaunt Shenruyan actually blocked it easily. At this rate, it was only a matter of time before Shenruyan transcended the tribulation. Boom! Boom! After the fourth lightning, the fifth and sixth lightning arrived as expected. The power of these two lightning bolts was clearly stronger than the previous ones. This was especially true for the sixth lightning. For the first time, Shenruyan took out a high-grade level 3 Dharma treasure. With a loud bang, the high-grade level 3 Dharma treasure immediately dimmed and returned to Shenruyan's hand. From the looks of it, it was severely damaged. However, as a result, Shenruyan successfully passed the sixth tribulation lightning. Next, it was the seventh tribulation lightning. This time, the tribulation lightning in the sky did not descend immediately. Instead, it was brewing for a while before it suddenly struck down. In the distance, Jiang Reni, Jiang Rendo, and the others, who suddenly sensed the power of the lightning, were shocked. This was because they could clearly sense that the power of the seventh lightning was the same as the attack of a true golden core cultivator. Boom! A golden shield flickering with rings of lightning appeared above Shenruyan's head. This was Shenruyan's defensive Dharma treasure, the golden lightning ring shield. As soon as the tribulation lightning landed on the shield, it was weakened by the rings of lightning on it. In the end, when the last ring of lightning was dimmed and the tribulation lightning smashed into the shield, its power was already less than 50% of its peak. Moreover, its passive defensive function was activated, filling a radius of 100 meters with golden ring-shaped lightning. When the 8th tribulation lightning descended, the surrounding rings of lightning weakened it by 30%. However, when the remaining 70% of its power smashed into the golden lightning heavenly ring shield, it still caused the defensive Dharma treasure to dim and sent it flying far away. It was not completely offset and continued to strike down at Shen Ruyan. Shen Ruyan narrowed her eyes. There was a clang. A sword light suddenly lit up in the air, instantly destroying the last bit of lightning power.